Yes, time again for Type 40 Live, the live stream Doctor Who magazine show for your weekend across Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, where we patiently cover and hover around all things Doctor Who from way back then to the right here and the right now. And it's all in front of a live chat full of fellow friends, fans, and companions just like you. We're nearly there. The end of the season already. A Russell T Davies blockbuster directly ahead up there somewhere. This could go either way, couldn't it? But with not just one, but two Time Lady villains. Will the Doctor get the fair Belinda home? We're looking ahead and marking the return of the wretched Rani herself here on Type 40 Live. And where else but to lie in wait, but to be here in this unmistakable one-off console room. Lots of clutter. It all looks like it does something or another. I'm not going to touch anything, at least for the time being. I think that could be somewhat foolhardy. Hello. But that is kind of my MO, really, come to think of it. Hello, I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. Welcome back to Type 40 Live. Here we are again. Yet another live stream covering the present season of Doctor Who, but bringing in everything that we can from the past and the future too. You're part of it. Where you come into it, where you come into it is you joining with your comments there across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. You can rant or you can rave, you can vent, or you can simply explode with joy. If you're really happy with what's gone on over the last 6 or 7 weeks there on BBC One, on the iPlayer, or on Disney Plus, I'm going to speculate about what's to come for the final 2 episodes as well. Hold up here in the console room. There is plenty of room. You just got to watch where you step. There are slippery surfaces, time spillage, so I'm told. But I've got a mop and bucket around here somewhere, I'm certain. I'm going to go and look for that. Whilst Simon Horton, he keeps you guys talking.
well, hello, greetings. How are we doing? It's nice to be back.
Well, we've put up the bunting. Look, we've got all the razzle dazzle here to match your showbiz jacket.
Well, I'm channeling my inner Rani tonight. I decided I'm going to come in style tonight. So yeah, it's all 80s tastic. It's all 80s Rani. Bring it on.
We do love the 80s here at Type 40.
We certainly do.
Unashamedly. So it's been a couple of weeks since we had you on.
Yeah. I missed last week, but yeah, so it's 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks since I was on, but it's good to be back. It's always nice to be back, and we're doing it in sunshine for the daylight. You know what I mean? It's actually light out there still, so it's lovely to be doing it. Without electric lights on.
Well, it would be nice if it stayed warm for longer than sort of 2 minutes at a time, wouldn't it?
Well,
but there we go.
You'd freeze it. I was that close to getting the heating on today, I have to say.
See, we've got the spirit of 85 and this unmistakable console room as well. Roundels, baubles of a different kind. I don't know what's in all of those jars at the bottom. They do look like something out of Habitat from the mid-80s. They're one for the sugar, one for the pepper, and one for the flour. I don't know. We'll have to find out.
It does. It absolutely screams mid-80s, doesn't it? It's the pale grey and the sort of peach overtones, and it just is. It's just it's EastEnders. Does Doctor Who really? This, isn't it?
It reminds me of when they introduced a wine bar into the Vic on EastEnders to compete with.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. That's what it is.
To jazz things up a little bit onto the square. That was it, yeah. Okay, so who we're going to bring in next? We have people waiting very, very patiently, including the very well-lit and in good voice. I think he's all wrapped up as well because it's winter where he is. He's our real-life time traveller, the one and only Matt Pott.
Getting around to winter, yeah. Like only a few days away, and I'll tell you what, we're feeling it. We're really feeling it.
You're all lit up in your command center there. You've got the funky red keys and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, all the power's going into the lighting and not the heating.
Good man. So. That's the spirit. That's the bulldog spirit, as we call it in Britain. Your keyboard does sort of match some of the lighting here in the Rani's TARDIS.
I've got it hot at the moment because I want to feel the heat.
Oh,
So
it actually
I've got
gives off heat. Your keyboard.
Well, I'm hoping it does.
we travel. We always travel in hope.
I normally make it blue when it's summer as well, so I get cooler.
I had no
In
idea
my
you could even
imagination.
do these things. All this technology. Whatever next, Simon. Whatever next. Whoever next. Yeah, let's bring on. Now, just before we came on, we confused her with talk of Smoking the Bandit and the Cannonball Run. At least when it comes to 80s Doctor Who, if not 80s movies, Charlotte has a fair idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, I sort of know 80s Who, so we'll see.
Good evening. How are you?
Hello, everybody.
Here we are again.
I know. And with that said, we're at that finale stage. It feels like it has sort of, in some ways, been long. In other ways, really quick.
I think it's going really, really quick. I have to be honest.
Yeah, I think certain episodes to me have felt like they've taken forever when I've been watching them, and overall, it has gone quite quickly.
Yeah. It goes even quicker when you don't watch it, Simon.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I was distracted there for a minute. I'm busy tapping away because I'm getting loads of comments in the chat, so I'm trying to answer you all before I actually have to talk again. But I haven't managed. But there we go. So here I am. Yeah, and I'm still not watching it. I'm absolutely still not watching. I caught the briefest moment of it whilst waiting for the Eurovision Song Contest to start, and that was quite enough for me to be
Never
honest.
fear, we're going to bring you up to speed on everything. And if the three of us missed anything, I know that Gary Akers, he's bound to have caught it. So we'll cover all bases, won't we, Gary?
Well, we inevitably do. I've decided that what I want, I hope Ronnie's dinosaur shows back up from the Mark of the Ronnie. But I also think that I would love to see the Ronnie try generate into Doom and have Suze Kempner show up. I think that would kind of put the cherry on top of this whole season.
She's the elephant in the room, isn't she? Doom at all times. Yes,
Well, here's his thing. At least he didn't cast her as the Rani, so we've got to count our blessings.
Oh, that's our loss.
Yeah, imagine that on screen if that would have happened last week.
Gary, I've always adored this console room, this set.
Oh, yeah.
And 40 years, obviously, since it appeared on screen, just the once in the Mark of the Rani. And yet every time I see it, whether it be pictures, when you rewatch the story, I rewatched this story just the other night in preparation for what we're going to talk about later. But even if I just see still images of this set, it still has something that's weirdly captivating about it. And yet, Simon, you're quite right. It's not necessarily particularly high tech, but it was then. It had bits that moved and things that's just.
Absolutely. I mean, I loved it at the time. It does look very dated, but I still love it now. That sort of gyroscopic thing in the middle is just so simple. It's just an executive toy at the end of the day, but it is fantastic. It's mesmerizing the way it moves. And I just loved those dinosaur embryos just in the jars in the background. It was just a bit loopy and cheesy, but it was recognizably a TARDIS, and that's what we love. You get that little thrill, don't you, when you see something that is clearly not the TARDIS, but is a TARDIS, and you just recognize the tropes, you recognize the roundels, you recognize the console. But I like what they did with it. They changed it up a bit. But they did make it look very, very like Athena does Doctor Who. It's just all airbrushed colours, isn't it?
Well, it's funny you should say that because I hadn't spotted. You're quite right. Those executive toys that were all the rage at the time, where they'd be on little metal pillars or something.
Yeah.
You'd push the man on the horse and he'd go backwards and forwards.
That's right. Or there was Newton's cradle, or they had all those little magnetic bits that you sort of mount up into a little pyramid or a little tower. They were all the rage in the 80s. Great, happy days.
Well, they were supposed to be, as you say, for offices, but most homes seem to have them. And when you watch old 80s sitcoms and dramas, you do see them dotted around here and there. But this set, yeah, it still fascinates people. There are people recreating it through the wonders of CGI artwork here. So we get different angles, albeit if they're not completely accessorized. Because, of course, this TARDIS had the ceiling light in as well, that the Doctor's TARDIS had lost by the end of season 1, I think, back in 64.
Yeah, absolutely. It used to have pretty much something like that. It was far more elaborate than that in season 1, but you're quite right. Yeah, it vanished by the end of halfway through season 1, to be honest. They couldn't afford to keep on bringing it in. But these are great images, aren't they? And those, again, those graphics that are flanking the entranceway, they're just so damned 80s, aren't they? Just...
You would still see those in nightclubs inside of the door where the bouncers would sort of stand.
Yes, and the nightclub would be called something like Pagoda Palace or something like that.
Very much so. Yeah. So, how about you, Matt? Have you got a soft spot for this?
Well, I didn't get to see this or experience it until like the early 90s. So, I was a little older then, but I mean, it's a lovely looking thing. It's totally different to what had come before with any other TARDISes. We'd only ever seen like three insides, I think, before. So including the Masters. So it's it was I do like the aesthetic of the silver and that looks like a Dalek. But it looks like something that. It was probably a TARDIS, and then the Rani's gone, and because she is a scientist, she's gone and done certain changes to it to suit her. The inference is that the chameleon circuit is in full working order, but that the outer shell, which is very similar to the inner, it's got a similar pattern on it. But the outer shell is the kind of the default setting. I think when we do see that. Yeah, it looks lovely.
It's also kind of, when you look at it again now, it's quite sort of Art Deco, isn't it? That design on the front of it, it's sort of Art Deco. But then again, Art Deco was very popular in the 80s. A lot of the aesthetic was sort of harking back to the, you think of a lot of, again, those Athena prints. You think of my favorite album cover of all time, Rio by Duran Duran. It's very Art Deco. Again, it's very 20s. So it was very big in the 80s, this kind of style again, wasn't it?
It was.
It's also quite timeless though, isn't it? It's quite timeless, to be fair to it.
Big Roundles says there's zero room in the live chat, and we've got lots of people watching and commenting along. Thank you, everybody. We'll chip in with you guys when we can. We've got Tom in the live chat as well. We've got Domgo too. Lots of familiar names. Is that the new Rani TARDIS? Asks Tom. No, it's the old one, Tom. It's the old one, the very, very old one. Yay! It's nearly finished, says Domgo. I wonder what he means. Yeah, we were all a bit mortified back in the 80s, weren't we, that TARDIS never reappeared. And I remember when the news broke that they got Kate O'Mara back for the Seventh Doctor's first story. I thought, we're going to get to see a TARDIS again, and we did. It just looked a bit shit.
Did
Randall's. This looked like the set of I don't know, Paul Daniels' magic show or something. Or I don't know what
right, Dan. It does.
Well, it does. You can see that, like in the first one, you could see the personality of like you've all said, the scientist, the sort of the idea of like showing off dinosaur embryos, like sort of kind of scientist you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And that's what a TARDIS should. It should show the personality of the owner. I've always thought that. Whereas here, I wouldn't get anything about the Rani's sort of what kind of person she was if I walked
Looks
into
like
that
something
TARDIS.
Rassilon would have or something.
Yeah, it's a bit grand, but over grand.
Yeah.
It is a massive disappointment. They didn't stick with that either. But then again, you could say they didn't stick with the Rani. The next time we saw her, it wasn't necessarily canonical, but we did see another TARDIS in 1993 when she turned up there for Dimensions in Time. She's gone into soft furnishings, away from the instrumentation, the test tubes, and the embryos, and just decided what she really needed was to get down to carpet right and get as much underfoot deep shag as she possibly could.
But again, it's just so early 90s, that carpet, isn't it? It just is. But I've always been intrigued about the console because it almost looks like it could be the Davison console just painted black.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know what the actual the history is behind that particular console. I cannot imagine that they built an entire brand new.
There wouldn't have been no money spent on this, would there, Simon?
No,
on this particular thing.
No,
because
very
of
very
the
little.
fact that it was a charity. You know,
Yeah, very little.
I think they were all doing it for free anyway.
Yes,
they, the actors.
Yeah,
In fact,
everybody works on Children in Need for free.
I don't even think this was painted. I think they just got the existing set and rubbed it with something vigorously.
Could be. Could be. But they've still done something to the light stand. They've still, the fact that all the lights are red, they've done something to it. They've spent some time on it, which was quite remarkable, to be honest. But also, I've always wondered where they got all the roundels from, because that set had been trashed years before. Absolutely years before. So where are the roundels and the fluted columns from, and the scanner wall? They must have made that, or was it borrowed from a fan? I don't know.
It could have been from the Museum of the Moving Image, from one of those installations at various events that they'd done over the years. You can see it's cobbled together, in all fairness, but it still had a certain mood about it, and as you say, pure 90s, but you can't beat the original, can you? This will always be the Riley's TARDIS to me. I can't believe we've never featured it before, but better late than never. And what better occasion than this week? We've got more people in the live chat as well, including Ben Casey, and we have Sam as well, who says, "Evening all. I'm just got back from a quick half at the Cloven Hoof yesterday. I was avoiding Ogre at the Nine Travellers. Lovely couple of days location visiting. Oh, it's just the weather for it as well, isn't it?"
It's absolutely perfect. Perfect time to be in Aldbourne. I'm assuming that Sam has. Are we actually to believe that? Lovely couple of days location visiting. So I'm assuming that Sam actually has been to Aldbourne, which is rather perfect because the Demons, of course, is set at Mayday, and as will be revealed in the diary a little bit later on, episode 1 of the Demons was actually screening this week.
There you go. Yes, so we're returning later on to the Riley's TARDIS. You'll be pleased to learn, because it will be all about I wouldn't trust that face. Would you? Would you trust that face? Definitely not. The TARDIS, the Riley's TARDIS, an iconic design that strangely seems both dated and timeless at the same time. I did just want to say as well, because this news broke just yesterday, the actor Gordon Granger passed away earlier this month. Gordon was a playwright, screenwriter, and he played George Stevenson in the 1985 story The Mark of the Rani. He was 87 years of age, and as I'm sure many people remember, he was only in part 2 of The Mark of the Rani. But I always imagined that he was in it all, Gary, because he did make quite an impact, didn't he? He was a proper British character actor, did most of his work on stage, but he really did inhabit that part well, I thought.
Yeah, you know what, honestly, and I'm not saying just because we're talking about the Rani. I mean, The Mark of the Rani is my favorite story of season 22. I think that they get the historical down right. I think it really has the feel of a real Doctor Who historical. And I loved everybody in this story.
87 years of age, not a bad age at all, is it, Simon? A hell of a list of credits to this actor's name. He was very convincing as George Stevenson in this, wasn't it? And I've seen it gone and compared to a portrait of George Stevenson, and they cast him really quite well, didn't they? Unless they trained his eyebrows, and they did a lot of work in makeup to get his lips to look that way. How well cast was Gordon Granger?
He's quite dashing, isn't he? He cuts a very dashing figure. I loved Mark of the Rhine at the time, and I remember Gordon Granger standing out as George Stevenson. The other characters I always felt sort of paled down in significance, but he was great. And I love the scene with the Doctor and Stevenson, when Stevenson is sort of puzzling over, he's struggling with something, and the Doctor nearly helps him. He says, "No, you've got to do it yourself. You've got to do it yourself," and leaps up. It's just a beautiful little scene because you know what he's about to do, and he knows he can't do it, so he pulls back from it, and it's that fun stuff that makes Doctor Who what it is, and only Doctor Who can do that. It's the only program that can play those kind of games, and that's what makes it so much fun. And
he sort of realizes the whole, if I say something, it may be taken out of context. Correct. And we could have Mavity for the rest of our friggin' life.
Correct. And I love the scene at the very end with Colin Baker to Stevenson when he says, once you get it right, it will go off like a rocket. And Perry groans, doesn't she? And it's just a beautiful little scene. It's lovely.
Very you ought to hate, but for some reason it just works, doesn't it? Gordon Granger, he worked a lot. Here he is in later years on the stage with a drink on the go, looking very. How can I put this?
You know what? When you first put that up, I thought, is that Patrick Troughton? Because it looks.
It has got a look.
The side it looks, he has that look.
Yeah,
dapper and urbane.
Urbane, yeah, good.
For 30 years, he was married to another well-loved British character actress, Zoe Wanamaker, who appeared in Doctor Who as Cassandra, didn't she, in The End of the World and in New Earth?
Well, no, didn't know that. Didn't realise that.
She was in that comedy series too, wasn't she?
Yeah,
My Family one.
She was the mum in it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What was it called? Good grief, we should remember. It was on enough.
My Family.
Yes, My Family. Thank you, Dan. Yeah.
That's the one. My Family. Yeah. So this actor in this role, I haven't seen much of his other stuff. He did movies, did mostly work on the stage, but he did do movies and TV as well. And he was a writer of several scripts for big drama series over the years. But yeah, it's as George Stevenson that I'll always remember Gordon Granger, one of my favourite characters throughout my childhood watching the show. Just in the expanded cast and supporting cast, very memorable. And I was just really sad, particularly as I was watching the story on the day the news broke about him as well.
Oh, that's very sad. I'm assuming he's also one of those people. He's a character actor, isn't he? And so I'm sure he's one of those people that has been in numerous things. You wouldn't recognize him, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Because he's going to be different in everything he does, and so we'll have seen him in loads of stuff without even realizing it.
He did some stuff in America in the 60s as well. He was a panelist on a game show, like a kind of What's My Line kind of thing, when he was a young actor. So that was when he was living and working in New York. So he's been all over the place.
I've been watching that lately.
Really fascinating man when you start to sort of dig into his life. Married 3 times. And Zoe Wanamaker is, everybody knows, everybody recognizes her face. She's just got one of those. She's just got one of those faces. She's not unmistakable, isn't she? So much character. But I was really sad to hear about that. There's other news as well, Simon. We're going to bring you up to speed on from out there in the Whoniverse that you may have missed. You'll be thrilled.
Probably will have done.
We've got you covered. I mean, I think you might have missed this. Did you miss this?
Yes, thank goodness I missed that.
I did too.
Yeah, John, that's it. That's what I'm talking about.
Did you miss the news, the surprising news that broke a couple of days ago about, now you remember the Doctor Who character options figures that we talk about quite a lot, how everybody was collecting them years ago, how popular they were, and what an integral part of childhoods they were. Charlotte, do you remember those?
Yeah, and how they've become very different, the kind of client base for them nowadays.
Even in the Shooty Gat era with this heroic figure, they are very thin on the ground. But help is at hand for all you collectors out there. You're going to like this one, Simon. The new Barbie Doctor Who figures.
Oh my God!
Based on Shooty Gatwa.
Please, no! Please make it stop.
Based on Shooty Gatwa's Doctor and Ruby Sunday, as played by Millie Gibson, are due to be released soon here.
Oh, good.
They promise over on Instagram.
Or they threaten.
So yeah, pre-orders suggest it'll be out later on in the year. We don't know about UK availability at the moment, so this is an international thing. but apparently on Australian websites they've been listed for some time. So there we are.
Oh, don't
Dr.
blame
Who
us.
Barbies.
So they'll be out
Barbies
later on.
everywhere.
They'll be out later on in the year, and they'll be in the bargain bins for 99p the next day.
Yeah, like the
probably.
last ones. The Jodie Whittaker ones didn't sell very well, did they?
$55? Wow.
Yeah, that's insane, isn't it?
No,
All the
but I'm
collectors will
sorry.
get them for Barbies, but that's about it.
Charlotte.
They're releasing Shooty just as we're probably going to see him turn into flames and disappear.
Well, you
Always
can
ahead of the
predict
curve,
it with
Charlotte.
lighter,
Timing.
can't ya?
Talk about planning, BBC, and timing your releases.
You may. So if you're watching the Eurovision Song Contest itself, Simon, obviously you weren't really that bothered about the Interstellar Song Contest. You won't have seen any of the coverage, even this picture from behind the scenes, where we've done a lot of digging into Russell T Davies the last couple of years, some of his decisions, and we've drawn the line at suggesting that he is demonic in any way. But I think that may have been a little bit that may have been a bit previous, because according to this picture from behind the scenes, this is the table reading for the Interstellar Song Contest. They have all adopted horns there for reasons best known to themselves. Had you seen this?
Oh, okay. Well, is there horns in the episode?
Yeah.
I'm afraid so.
Okay. What a shame I missed it. I mean, I clearly missed something special here, didn't I?
Oh, did you miss? So you missed Graham Norton too, Simon?
I missed it. Well, no, I did actually catch about the last 3 seconds of Graham Norton, because I tuned in for the proper song contest and caught sadly the last 5 minutes of this particular episode. I saw everything that everybody's talking about.
You definitely missed Ryland.
Oh, I missed Ryland. Thank goodness I missed Ryland. Whew. Lucky escape.
You lucky boy. But I don't think you will have missed a far more welcome site. This site, and the words "find me." This must have found you. This news that the iconic character of Susan Foreman has reappeared on screen after all of our speculation and decades of sort of fan build-up and appetite. You must have seen this.
Yeah, I did. I heard. I didn't see it. I still haven't actually watched it, but I've heard about it. I watched the Type 40 after show about this, and you were right, Dan, when you said it's too little, too late, and that's not by any means describing Carol Ann Ford as too little. Absolutely not in the slightest. But it's too late. It's just too late. So yeah, it's not even this would attract me back to want to watch 50 minutes of this.
It's quite scary too, isn't it, Simon, in the fact that, we don't know what they're going to do with the character of Susan now she's back in it. It's quite
Simon, when you say it's too late, do you mean it's too late to revive an interest in the series in you, or if they missed the window with this character whereby it would have been the most affecting?
Both, because truth be told, we were all clamouring for Susan's return in the 60th. We all felt it was absolutely the logical time to bring Susan back was in the 60th. That's when she should have come back, and it might then have worked, but it feels tokenism now. It feels almost in fact, I've watched the little interview that she has with Varada Sethu, and she pretty much said, she says that she bumped into Russell T Davies at the premiere, didn't she, of one of the 60th episodes?
That's right.
I think the Beat the Meep episode, and it's almost it's pretty much he virtually admits, "Oh, flipping heck, I'd almost forgotten to put you in. Oh, go on then. Would you like to be in Doctor Who?" It's just like he only asked her because he happened to bump into her at a party. I just think it's quite insulting, to be honest, to an iconic character and an iconic actress. But there we go. That's me.
Fly Highland agrees it should have happened about 8 years ago. I think a lot of people do feel the same way. I do understand. I mean, the scenes and the lines, I did get a shiver when she spoke, and just the sight of her, it captivated me. But I do see entirely why you feel the way that you do. I do. I mean, now that you've had a chance to live with it for a few more days, I mean, it's not. You haven't rushed over to see it or anything, Simon. You're still going to wait.
No. I'm not even going to wait, Dan. It's of no interest to me to watch it. I've seen tiny little clips of it. I think there's a little tiny clip of it in that interview that she gives, the two-way chat with Verada, that one. So I think I've seen a tiny little bit of it. I'm assuming she only probably gets 2 lines. Does she turn back and find me or something?
There's three or four lines, and they're all delivered in a similar manner, aren't they, Charlotte? Where she's sort of looking down the camera like that.
Yeah, and in the episode, Simon, there's no explanation as to why it's happening. It's very much just a shock of, oh, right, there's Susan. And it's like, and this is where I find it a bit, once again, it's more telling of the writing, not anything to do with the actress whatsoever. That literally now in the little previews we're getting for this week's, they're actually starting to explain what that was last week. And I'm like, I'm sorry, if I'm having to wait a week while you're promoting your next episode to understand a plot point from your previous episode, that's bad writing. And it does sort of hint towards what you said, Simon, of this wasn't like a well-planned thing. It was very much, oh, let's put you in the show.
Yeah. And the thing is, Charlotte, the problem I've got now with the show is the stories themselves are not remotely interesting to me. Yes. So I'm not going to watch this episode for the story. All I'm going to watch it for is the 10 seconds or whatever that Carol Ann Ford is in it. And I don't need to do that. I've got plenty of other good Carol Ann Ford stuff that I can watch in Classic Who, or even in interviews, whatever it is. I don't need to see 10 seconds in a poorly written, poorly produced episode, because I have no investment anymore, Charlotte, in the show. So why would I watch it?
Well, yeah, and I think that's sort of the problem now, that because Russell is having to sort of go back to so many, like the Rani, like Susan, like Sutek last year, because he's finally going back to these sort of wanted characters that we've all talked about for years in the fandom. But he's doing it at a time when the actual era itself is not working. I've sort of said, I find it quite telling that at this point, when the show has to just rely on the current era, whether that's just purely Shooty, your main Doctor, or Belinda, or just the actual storyline of the current episode, you can see the numbers drop, interest drops. But as soon as he goes back to something he didn't create, something somebody else made, something that's already got that inbuilt love already, suddenly you get interest back. And I've seen that a lot actually with the Rani reveal. A lot more talk about not so much the episode, but just the fact that the Rani's back.
Stephen in the chat says that Susan is just there. There's no build-up or drama or big reveal for such an iconic character, and that's a great disservice to Carol Ann Ford. I'm going to disagree with that. I think that you can't have everything be revealed with an enormous drum roll, enter center stage, and it's a cataclysmic thing. I thought this was, in my opinion, this was beautiful. Bear in mind that I thought the episode was largely terrible. For me, the spookiness of it, the ethereal quality, was almost magical. Yes, Susan is just there, but it wasn't Susan's story. Susan's story is yet to come. We haven't been told that yet. So I'm fine with that. It's just a pity that of all the stories that feature her reappearance after the best part of 6 decades, it was such a generally, in my view, pretty terrible episode of Doctor Who. What isn't terrible, having said that, is this video over on the official BBC Doctor Who channel. If you want something that's, I think it's only on about 3 or 4 minutes, something that's genuinely very, very nourishing, very honest, full of charm, and about connection, human connection, then this video, it's called What Does It Take to Travel in the TARDIS with Verada Satu and Carol Ann Ford, is a beautiful little piece. There's nothing flashy or fancy about it at all. Just 2 women talking about a single job, albeit 6 decades apart, that sort of binds them. They're complete strangers, and they're both speaking very sort of off the cuff. I don't know how long they would have spoken for before arriving at this 3 minutes, Gary, but it really is lovely. And Carol Ann Ford's face just sort of lights up. and they set to talking, and you can see it dawn on Verada's face, and she vocalized it there. She's only just processing in that moment for her, speaking to her predecessor from all those decades ago, what it means to be the companion. You can see the look on her face, the realization. So you can't help but respond to that. And the way that the veteran star responds to her as well, how generous that she is. As you're making a different kind of legacy, and she advises that this has to be about you. Have you caught this yet, Gary?
No, I didn't even know this was out, but I'm going to be watching that right after the show. Yeah, you're right. I mean, those are the kind of things that, it's kind of like it's kind of a good tonic for a lot of the tone of a lot of the stuff that's going on in social media and everything. And you're right. It's just about kind of honest, connection, and the kind of handing off of the legacy, from Carol Ann Ford to Verada Sethu. That
just feels very authentic. When I go over to the official channels, when you do see people talking, they're usually shouting in your face, Matt, they're demanding that you watch something. It's very, very transactional. Whereas with this, it's just human connection. And they finish off by saying it was wonderful to be able to have this conversation, and it was lovely to have met you. And I can't recommend this enough. More of this and less nonsense, less gimmickry, I think would be the way to go. I can't recommend this enough. Everybody, get over there, and just to see Carol Ann Ford's smiling face there, it really is something.
I do want to sort of respond to Tom Haynes, who's in the chat. Hello, Tom. A couple of comments here about that we're all being very harsh about Susan, and it's a big credit for her to come back. I do want to be absolutely clear here. I certainly, and I think I speak for the whole panel here, nobody is being harsh about Susan coming back at all. Quite the opposite. I adore Carol Ann Ford. I adore the character of Susan. And I love to see her in Doctor Who. What I'm trying to say, and maybe I'm not conveying it properly, is that this version of Doctor Who simply holds no interest for me. Quite the opposite, in fact. It bothers me, it upsets me, the state that it's in. And so I see no joy in seeing a character I love put into a show that I don't love. That's the problem I've got with it. Nobody is being harsh about Susan coming back. Nobody. Please don't misunderstand us.
I think it's wonderful myself. Doctor Who fan 001 asks, does the Doctor's granddaughter have two hearts? We never found that out, did we, Gary?
No, it was never. Well, obviously, she'd left the show before the concept of Time Lords was even, a dream. But even in later years, Five Doctors, for example, it was never said that she was a Time Lord. I mean, she's Gallifreyan, but it was never made explicit that she's a Time Lord.
No. And there was an official photograph released as well of Susan Foreman 2025, accessorizing there, Charlotte, with matching earrings and a very large necklace, a pendant.
Yeah, but like I said, it added to sort of that mystique of when she did appear. I think if she would have worn something a bit more normal, it probably wouldn't have had that as much of the effect visually that it sort of had of, like you said, almost like an angel. That's the sort of the feeling I had. It's this idea of the angel appears and saves the Doctor, and it's Susan, which is just perfect.
We've got Phil in the live chat, Philip Roy, who says, I don't blame Carol Ann Ford for taking the gig. She probably has no idea
Absolutely.
how controversial and divisive the era, the entire production has become. To her, it's finally a chance to appear in New Who. Yeah, something she's wanted herself on a personal level, and for her fans, her audience, for years now. She's been talking about it for 20 years since it came back. So yeah, I think this is generally pretty wonderful.
I mean, I've been considering going because I know she's here for a convention in a few months' time.
That's right.
And I've been considering going to see her, but now that she's going to be involved in this show, I'm sort of umming and ahhing about it now, to be honest. I just kind of have to remember that, she was part of the original TARDIS crew, and that's what I'll probably have to, go there and just imagine that rather than, whatever we're expecting in the next couple of weeks,
what's coming in the
I
next
do
couple of
worry.
weeks.
I do worry.
I think we've all
Well,
got our fears. Of course we have, because the series is about to close out. There's just 2 episodes to tell this story, Simon. However they're going to tell it, 2 hours worth of screen time in Wish World and the reality war that make up the 2-part season finale. BBC One have confirmed the time slot as well. They've confirmed the time slot and the runtime of the episode itself as well. That'll close out season 2 of All New Doctor Who. So it'll be on at 10 to 7, Saturday the 31st of May 2025, and it's going to run for 1 hour and 6 minutes. So that will most likely take it up to the 8 o'clock mark there. So there we are, 70-minute block of time there for the reality war. And the synopsis says that battle rages across the skies as the unholy trinity unleash their deadly ambition. The Doctor, Belinda and Ruby have to risk everything in the quest to save one innocent life. That's coming in just a week and a half's time as of time of live streaming this. It's all going to be over before we know. I know. Look, we better move on, because he'll be a mess. It'll be terrible. Puddles everywhere. Yes, this is Type 40 live on Rumble X, YouTube, and Facebook, with so much left to cover. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And if you want some more, and let's face it, why wouldn't you? Head over to the podcatcher of your choice. That's where you'll find the Type 40 Doctor Who podcast there. All these episodes of reviews, previews, interviews, geek outs, and deep dives with all our regular panelists and lots of awesome guests too. Any podcatcher that you can care to name, Spotify, Audible, all those places, or at our home feed at type40.podbean.com. Ian Levine was uncensored and postal on this very channel last week. It's still up here to stream to your heart's content, and leave us a comment there. The Doctor Who fandom legend was very candid as ever when he gave his review of the current season, and we touched on all manner of other topics as well, because have you ever tried stopping Ian Levine from going wherever he needs to? So you can watch my latest long form conversation there with Ian Levine, and enjoy. I think he wants your feedback. We're going to pass on some comments as well for a follow-on conversation. And finally, there's our new Who Reaction live streams there. They kick off within a few minutes of the BBC One screenings of those new episodes. So a cluster of us run straight back to the webcams and the mics to give you our literal instant reactions to each new episode. Obviously, there's another one coming this Saturday, Charlotte. My God, I need a break.
Well, to be fair, this weekend's probably going to be okay. I dread to think how we're all going to be in the final episode. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I need to wet my whistle already and get working on that. Okay, so yes, we want your subscribe. That would be nice. Please like this video if you can. That does help a lot more than you think too. And hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about what we're doing next and exactly when, because we've been coming at it thick and fast in the nicest possible way here during this season. But where next? Who next? Dare we go there?
Perfect. Just the person I need to see. Firstly, loving the outfit, by the way. Really suits your hair. Secondly, the universe is falling apart. I don't have much time to yet. I need to shoot off. I need to do something. But by all means, this is imperative. Watch Type 40. The Type 40 podcast is where you need to be. Seguida!
I don't know what they're smiling about. Things are looking to be getting pretty grim indeed in Wish World, which is the first half of the 2025 season of Doctor Who. Yes, so they may well think they've got it all covered, but we know what's coming, even if they don't. Russell T Davies used to have a knack for these finales, for whipping up the nation into a real state, didn't he? And lately they've happened upon the idea of announcing each title with these purpose-made trailers as well, haven't they? But I don't think it really helps in the long run. I think it's hard to get excited about this stuff in the way that he thinks we should, because names are just names until we get the episodes, aren't they? But yeah, this is the first half of the season finale. So she's been an adversary that the fandom have had in the backs of our minds, I think, for at least a decade and a half. and her curious absence from 21st century Doctor Who was sort of niggled away, really. I think we'd all sort of wondered, surely one day she would appear, even if it was just for one rematch, that the Rani would return to pit her wince against the Time Lord. Finally, it seems that time has come. The iconic original character there from the mid-80s, just 2 classic appearances, and yet this character sort of managed to hang around a little. I don't know whether it was by virtue of the fact that there were so few female antagonists in the series at all, or whether it was the impact of the original actress Kate O'Mara. Now here we are in 2025, and just like buzzes, you wait around for one for ages, and 2 turn up. Stephen Moffat once insisted there was no point in bringing back the Rani because no one knows who the Rani is. Here she is. Here they are. 2 great British character actresses succeeding Kate O'Mara in this role. Naturally, we're all full of questions as long-term or short-term fans, I think, wherever you came in with the show. However well you know the character or not. The Time Lords have been brought back to life and wiped out 2 or 3 times since we last saw the Rani. So I think the biggest question that I have is, where on earth has she been in the Whoniverse in the meantime? How long was she Anita Dobson? Was the Rani married to Dirty Dan? What's the big experiment that she's got going on this time? Will she recognise Melanie Bush? And does the Doctor stand a cat and else chance of besting the Rani this time? Are you excited to see the Rani back? Gary, you a big Rani fan?
I enjoyed Kate O'Mara's portrayal, and clearly everybody else did, because people have been, wanting the character to come back for decades. I like the fact that she's not interested in what she thinks of as the petty rivalry between the Doctor and the Master. She just wants to get on with her experiment. I really hope that aspect of her character remains intact and they don't go for some, I'm out for revenge type of thing, because that's not the Rani.
The nuances to this particular character.
That's one of the things that worries me, Gary, with this, because the little bits that I saw that appears just at the end of last week's episode, she just looks suddenly like any other villain that's just out to kill the Doctor, and that was not what the Rani was. That couldn't have been further from the truth of what the Rani character was. Yeah. So I really pray they haven't just turned her into another moustache twirling villain, for want of a better phrase.
She insists I'm the Rani, the definitive article, so to speak.
Yeah, which they've grabbed from Robot. I didn't know how I felt about that. I didn't know how I felt about stealing lines literally verbatim from Tom Baker's mouth. Is it?
You could say few people will recognise it, considering the millions that potentially watch the show. But then again, why the English language is big and broad, and there must be other words.
Yeah, is it homage? Is it paying tipping the hat to? Is it paying tribute to? I guess that's the intention, as opposed to just being lazy writing. And so maybe we're supposed to sort of punch the air at, they used Tom's words. I don't know. As somebody who adores Tom, look, it's going to sound awful, but I'm just going to say it. It's an insult to put those words from Tom Baker into the mouth of somebody who is, I'm sorry, a lesser actor than Tom Baker. There you are. I said it. Sorry.
Well, in my opinion, let's. This is Archie Panjab. 53-year-old English actress, lots of roles in both British and American TV shows, including Life on Mars, Blind Spot, Departure, and several years on The Good Wife. That's, I think, where most people will recognise her for, was on The Good Wife. That was the series where she got an Emmy Award, as well as various other different awards, the Golden Globe nominations, Screen Actors Guild Awards. So she was there in America on that show for really quite a long time. But she was also in the films Bend It Like Beckham, East is East, and A Mighty Heart with Angelina Jolie. So she's been around a long time. This woman is, I think she's quite a get for Doctor Who. And she instantly convinced me in those couple of lines that she was the Rani, and she wasn't even in the leather yet. So I think they've actually cast her very, very well. But you're quite right. I mean, for somebody to make their screen entrance and to be quoting someone else is strange. There's no way of getting around that. What they really need is Pip and Jane Baker back. Pip and Jane Baker, both of them sadly no longer with us. Husband and wife writing combo, weren't they, that contributed several scripts in the latter seasons of the classic run. And they're the ones who you can see tussling with the young Chris Chibnall on the notorious Open Air interview. They created the Rani, didn't they, all the way back in the mid-'80s, Simon?
Yeah, they did. And they created the Rani specifically because John Nathan Turner felt that the Master was becoming too pantomime. I mean, who'd have thought Anthony Ainley's performance as the Master was becoming too pantomime? But that was one of the reasons why they said, John Nathan Turner said, let's create a new villain. And that's how the Rani came to be. By the way, Kate O'Mara wasn't the first choice for the Rani. Pip and Jane Baker absolutely wrote the part with Kate O'Mara in mind and always saw her in the role, whereas John Nathan Turner wanted an actress called Sarah Badel, who had been in The Pallisers in 1974, the production that one of his first productions at the BBC that he worked on, and he'd seen the appeal of Sarah Badel, and so that's who he wanted in the role, but ultimately he came round to the idea of Kate O'Mara. Sarah Badel, by the way, went on to work in Jago and Lightfoot. She did some of the audio work in Jago and Lightfoot. But yeah, it is interesting that she wasn't the first choice, and yet you cannot imagine the Rani. Well, I can't, and this is one of the things I'm now struggling with today. Is I cannot see the Rani played by any other actress than Kate O'Mara. She was the Rani. The Rani was her. She inhabited the role. I struggle to see anybody matching what Kate O'Mara brought to the role. It's a tough act to follow.
I'm going to meet you halfway and say that even on reflection, as much as I love Anita Dobson, nearly a week on, Charlotte, I'm still struggling to reconcile the character of Mrs. Flood with the Rani. Now, the Rani was kind of a mistress of disguise. That was her thing. She pretended to be Mel for 2 episodes, dressed up as an old crone. She'd do that sort of stuff. But even so, I'm still struggling with this, Charlotte. How are you with it?
Well, I sort of said, I think it was on last stream, and the more I've thought about it, it's so to me anyway, it's obvious that Mrs. Flood was never initially planned to be the Rani.
Yeah.
No.
It was.
Okay.
I think they just got her in because she's a well-known British actress. She's a very good actress, so of course, if you can get somebody like that on screen, you do it. No, I'm not saying that's a bad decision, but
Right.
felt like, they've got this actress, and then they didn't have a clue what they were doing with her. They gave her these really nonsense, no weight, nothing really going on scenes. Just that's Mrs. Flood, isn't that nice, sort of thing. Like if she would have worked in 2005, let's say. Rose's family situation worked because you had quite a few visits with Jackie, with Mickey, with those characters. So even though they weren't part of the adventures every week, you got to know them, you got to sort of see their personalities, you got to see them change. Whereas Mrs. Flood, just every time you saw her, she was some version of the neighbour with nothing else going on.
Yeah.
So to suddenly then have that reveal of, she's the Rani.
It's a bit odd, isn't it?
Yeah, it felt really out of nowhere. It felt like in the 11th hour, they were like, okay, let's do the Rani. I want that character back. We've got Anita Dobson. We've done nothing with her. And it almost feels like they always had this other actress. Because I agree with you, Dan. For me, those seconds she was on the screen, I was just like, okay. Like, we've got that superiority immediately, which I loved about her. you sort of got that cattiness, and that's what I like about the Rani. That the character, instead of sort of shying away from the fact that she's female, in certain aspects, fully embraces it. And it is with the sort of the cattiness, if I'm going to be honest, the bitchiness of the character. And I think that's brilliant. That she is this sort of, because that's what makes her different. And I liked how this actress initially, in the episode, you got that sort of, like I said, superiority, the ego, the fact that she was like, I'm the Rani in that sense. And she was very quickly to sort of get that command of the room.
Yeah.
I still don't like this whole, to go back to Anita, unless it's revealed, somebody said in our chat, oh, she's being this subservient version, she's being this sort of, yes, mistress version, so then later she can backstab her. I'll be completely up for that, and for me that would make more sense, but I don't see, especially now how she's acting, to be a Rani. The Rani to me would never cower, would never be number 2 to anybody, let alone
I've been wondering, Charlotte, because obviously we've got the pictures. We've seen the Rani already in various pictures wearing 2 different outfits, both of which have got shoulder pads, Gary. And I'm starting to think that maybe the Rani is a kind of a product of her time, of the mid-80s, in the way that the Master was of the turn of the 60s and the 70s. And because she does remind me of Dynasty and Dallas and all those shows, which of course was where Kate O'Mara eventually sort of ended up there, as Russell T Davies said in this post on his favourite social media platform. He was over on Instagram welcoming Archie Panjab to the role, but he was paying tribute as well to Kate O'Mara. Said, Kate played the original Rani in Doctor Who, and we dedicated the read-through of this year's finale to her. I once walked past her in Soho, tiny and impossibly beautiful. She appeared in lots of wonderful TV, Ab Fab and Dynasty. What a combination. Though it said she did TV work to fund her theatre company and her love of Shakespeare. The Rani is something to behold. You think she'd be all poised and delicate, but she's so physically strong as she stomps around those sets. She bellows, and at one point she's having so much fun, she actually skips across the set. Glorious. What a star. We're delighted to honour her. Thank you, and all hail Kate. Coming on Saturday, the Rani's greatest experiment yet in Wish World. A nice tribute there, and a very colourful description of Kate O'Mara, Gary.
I mean, they did. I was wondering in the new, the picture of the new Rani, it's not like the big shoulder pads, but her shoulders do have that, what looks like, spikes or something on them, on the shoulders. Metal. So they do. I like the fact that they are kind of, paying special attention to the shoulders on her outfit. I think that's kind of cool. The one thing that I think we need to get, but I mean to Charlotte's point, but I don't think Russell's going to give us, is they need to explain why the Rani spent how many years as Ruby's neighbor, why the Rani was in the cafeteria, the Beatles cafeteria, serving food. They need to explain, all of that stuff in context. I don't think for a minute we're going to, but we'll probably get, something next week where Russell says, oh, that's up to all you fans to make work. I'm certain we're going to get something like that. But for the integrity of the story, it all has to make sense.
Yeah,
Quickly, the Balloon suggests that it would make more sense if Mrs. Flood was turned out to be Drax.
Yes.
But again, we've seen, my point with this is that we've still seen so little when we get the balance of the story. We've got a comment here from Tom Haynes as well. He says, I really think there's a time bomb in this week's episode to help the Doctor and Belinda to safety after the TARDIS explodes. That Rani could have laid a trap or two for them, Charlotte. This is what excites me, the fact that she'll have her own aim. She won't be looking necessarily to take over the universe. There'll be something very particular to her at hand. And then we'll know. I think that'll be the proof as to the quality of the writing and to how cynical they've been in taking another toy out of the Doctor Who playchest.
Well, yeah, and it would be nice to have a villain that's actually calculated again. That's not, that's like you said, it's got a plan, hopefully, which is going to sort of have this sort of idea of all the parts she can play and what she can use and who she can use and that sort of idea. Because the Master of Current, who just descends into a blithering wreck, and a madman who just ends up shouting and being the Joker. So I'm hoping off that performance so far we've seen, I've not seen any signs of that in her, and I just want that cold, calculating villain again, which is what I'm really hoping we get.
But the whole point of it is, it has to be that the Doctor is incidental to this. This is the whole thing about the Rani. The Rani is not out to get anybody. The Rani is out as a character to do what she likes to do, which is just devious experimentation. And the Doctor just happened to get in her way. And so they've got to be really careful with the writing here to ensure that they don't undermine that. And what I've seen so far, as Gary has alluded to with the Mrs. Flood character, is that she's been there all the way, sort of taunting the Doctor and following the Doctor. That's not the Rani. That just is not the Rani. That's not what the character of the Rani ever did. And so that's what worries me about this. Well, it doesn't worry me actually, because I'm not going to be watching it. But it would worry me if I was watching it.
Yeah, the thing is, the Rani's not Moriarty, like how the Master is very clearly a riff on that sort of villain. That with Moriarty and Sherlock, they're obsessed with each other. They have to beat each other. They have to be the cleverest person in the world to each other. Completely
different, agreed.
So with the Rani, like you said, she has to just... The Doctor can be an obstacle. She can have a plan to deal with, but he cannot be the focus completely.
Correct.
And I you know what, I kind of feel compelled to say this. I don't want to, I hope this doesn't sound too petty or anything, but I really have been thinking about this all week. It strikes me as, especially when I see Dan, what you read from what Russell was saying in the monthly. It does strike me as a bit disingenuous on Russell's part that after spending the better part of 3 years kind of slagging off classic series fans and driving them away and saying this new series isn't for you, it's for a new generation, that he keeps going back and dipping into the classic series tropes like Sutek and the Rani and everything, and then expecting us to kind of give him hosannas for bringing these characters back. And I don't even know what new viewers thought about at the end, like, who was that woman? Who is that woman in the TARDIS supposed to be? They have no context for it all. And yet, so few. The thing is, so few of them are. The truth of the matter is that we had a comment a moment ago saying Doctor Who is dead, deluded Doctor Who is dead. Doctor Who, maybe creatively on its what feels like its last legs, admittedly, but several new episodes of Doctor Who have been screening over the last few weeks, my friend. So yes, we're talking about them. That's kind of what we do. But yeah, when it comes to those kind of strings to not just the character but the series, they've got to be played, if not pitch perfect, then certainly very competently, because the general public, in the way that you've described, Gary, they've become accustomed to a version of this show that they've got used to the fact that none of it makes any sense, and more to the point, they've got used to the idea that they can miss great portions of it, be it one episode or 2 episodes or an entire season, and pick it up later, because even when they do see it, none of it actually makes them feel anything or makes any sense in the long term anyway. So it's one thing to cast good character actors and actresses, which they have several times in this era, to be fair. It's one thing to cast them, and even to cast them into the right characters at the right time, but that's only 2/3 of the mission statement. The delivery on that potential is where this era has fallen down time and time and time again. I mean, I think this picture, I think this is delicious. And whatever, she's got some sort of sonic instrument. Yeah. It all looks so right. She's even got
it does. I agree.
It
reminds
me of something Kate O'Mara would wear, Simon.
Yeah,
I am still worried.
You are quite right. I agree. It's a cracking image. And as we have said, the outfit is great. It is very Kate O'Mara. it's just a difficult one, isn't it? Because I just think, bless her, if Kate O'Mara was still alive and she had regenerated out of Anita Dobson, we would all be punching the air in joy. Yeah. With this, because the general public would also be punching the air with joy, not because they necessarily remember the Rani, of course they don't, but they recognise Kate O'Mara as a cracking actress, and they know that they're suddenly going to get something interesting to watch. Whereas with this, it does just feel a bit like the public are just going to be sitting at home confused. I mean, the bi-generation thing, I still think is utterly catastrophic. It's the worst idea that Russell T Davies has ever had in his entire life. I really do passionately believe that, because the public are just saying, sorry, what is this? There's now there's two of them. What is this? They don't understand it. They don't get it, and it's not interesting enough an idea to warrant playing the card twice. It's certainly not really worth playing it once, but certainly not twice. And it just waters it down. Sorry, Charlotte.
Yeah. I was going to say, just to add what you're saying, like, we got told with David and Shooty, this is a really rare thing. Like, this never happens.
Right. Yeah, it was mythological.
Like last week. But suddenly, in like the space of 2 years on screen, it's happened again.
Are we going to get this every time, Charlotte? Every time a Time Lord now regenerates, it's just going to be by generation every single time.
It's gone from something that was supposed to be out of mythology that had never happened before to now it's like, oh well, yeah, sure, it's all over.
Yeah.
Didn't the writer say how undignified when it happened to her in this?
Yeah, I think she did.
I think I would go a step further as well, and I think it's also undignified to Anita Dobson. I think it's insulting to hire Anita Dobson, who I rate as one of the greatest actresses in the UK at the moment, and then to basically relegate her now to kind of a simpering imbecile in the background. I just think it's insulting to her as an actress, and what they were doing with her at the end of that episode, where she was tripping along, holding up her trousers. It's just, this is Anita Dobson. She's a legend. What are you doing? It's awful to watch.
They need to have that payoff.
Yes,
the only way
Charlotte.
They can justify this is at the end, like the second episode, when when Prime Rani, as I'm going to call her now, is about to have a big moment in the sun, and Anita just comes up behind her and just stabs her, or does the equivalent of a stab in the back.
And that will be interesting, Charlotte. That's a cracking idea. I'd love to think that Russell T Davies has had that idea. I'm not sure.
And then like for that last 10 minutes, when you think it's going to be one Rani who's going to be relishing all the planning and everything, she's going to be like, no, love. You're dealing with me.
I was there first.
Yeah. Like, you're dealing with me. Leave her to one side. You're dealing with the real Rani now. She can shut up. Like, that's what I want to see.
That'd be fantastic, Charlotte. That would make me.
Are you a fan? Are you a fan of the Rani from the classic years? And where are you with this? Because you watched it and you came and gave your instant reactions the other night on our live stream following this episode. How have you felt about it in the time in between? Are you going to be watching at the weekend? And were you fond of the Rani in the first place?
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna see it out now. It's only 2 more episodes. Thankfully, I dipped out, so I missed out on 4 of them. So, I think 4 is going to be, 4 or 5 is pretty much going to be a limit for me. But look, I mean, the Rani. Well, I'd only ever seen her in the first 2 stories anyway. I never saw her in the third, Dimensions in Time thing. So
don't worry, you didn't miss much.
And she was kind of fleeting in those. I don't know.
Not a fan?
No, well, I mean, I just feel she probably, to be honest, belongs in the past. I don't think that they really need to bring her back. And I kind of feel like now we really are. And I'm not saying at all that the Rani is the bottom of the barrel, but I'm just going, at this point, you've got nothing else,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
you've got nothing else to put on it. You've got no imagination, Russell. You've got none whatsoever. And it's like, obviously, you thought about this while you were writing the show, like while Anita Dobson and that was in there. It's like, oh, yes, I can do this. You never had any foreplan or anything. You've just made it up. It seems to me he's just made it up as he's gone along. And it doesn't make any sense. I just hope that in these 2 episodes, everything, and I'm not expecting it at all, but I'm just hoping that these all have some sort of a finishing to the story, a closure that's just, not like last year where it was just everywhere and nowhere. And I just worry that I'm going to be disappointed majorly again. It's already bad. It's already disappointed me numerous times, but it's just, I'm like, okay, well, I'll see it through. I'm not that excited about these Rani actresses. Yes, I would have loved to have seen Kate O'Mara back. I know they can't do that. I know she wanted to come back. She wanted to come back in the Peter Capaldi era. And I actually saw an interview with her during the celebration for the 50th, and they were interviewing her. And I was like, oh gosh, you could have still played.
That would have been great.
I honestly think
Kate O'Mara was born in 1939 and passed away in 2014. So the year that Capaldi made his screen debut, she was 74 years old. She was an English film, stage and television actress and sometime novelist, I only found out this week. Made her debut in 1963. She was only 24 in The Merchant of Venice on stage, and then went on to appear in a plethora of TV shows and movies, including The Saint, there with the late, great Roger Moore, Danger Man with Patrick McGoohan, Adamant Lives, Z-Cars, and The Avengers 2. In the cinema, she was in 2 huge Hammer horror films, The Vampire Lovers and The Horror of Frankenstein. I bet you've seen that, haven't you, Matt? I bet you've seen both of them, haven't you, you dirty devil?
Got them right here.
Yep.
I seriously do.
There she is, one of the Vampire Lovers. So she was somewhat of a force of nature, very populist in her appeal, I think, Matt. Seemed to be able to turn her hand to anything. And just as Russell T Davies said on Instagram, would appear in things like Absolutely Fabulous and in comic relief skits, playing herself, being going to A&E and Casualty and things like that. So she wasn't
she was
proud in any way.
Well.
She always seemed like she was having fun, whatever she was doing. And as glamorous as she was, Simon, she didn't seem to be prima donna-ish in any way. I've never heard a single bad story about Kate O'Mara. You met her once, didn't you? Bumped into her.
I literally bumped into Kate O'Mara once. I regret to this day that I didn't actually stop and talk to her, because I should have done. But yes, it was when I was many, many years ago when I was living up in York, and I knew that she was on at the York Theatre Royal. But I'd never thought for a second that I would bump into her in town. But I was literally coming around the corner of the Minster, the cathedral in York, and she was coming in the other direction, and we literally bumped into each other. And bless her, she was only this big. She was tiny, and she was dressed from head to foot in black leather. Of course she was. She was exactly as you imagine her to be. She commanded attention. You could just imagine all of the eyes turning to as she walked down the street in this clad, as I say, head to toe in skin tight black leather. And I think, to be honest, that's why I didn't stop and speak to her, because she came around the corner almost like a sort of force of nature. not fast, not at any pace that she was trying to get somewhere. No, just the fact that this is Kate O'Mara, and she was a force to be reckoned with. And I think I was just in awe, and it all happened so quickly that there was no time for me then to turn and say, I'm really sorry, but can I just say hello? But I've regretted it to this day. But she was it was to be in her airspace. You felt, gosh, she'd really got something. She really, you can just see from these images now, she absolutely had something, didn't she? The camera loved her.
That was two of her ongoing dramas in Britain there. So there she is in The Brothers on the left, and then in Howard's Way on the right as Laura Wilde, who was kind of a lot like the characters in Dallas and Dynasty, but just to the max. She had the audition for Dynasty apparently before she was even in The Mark of the Rani.
Yeah,
but it just took a while for it to sort of to come through. And in the end, she didn't really make that many appearances in Dynasty at all. I think she was in like one season steadily, and then appeared a little the year after, and then after that just disappeared into thin air. The way that a lot of these characters did, Gary. I loved all that stuff, the silliness of that time, and she fitted in perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I remember publicity-wise, they made a big deal. I didn't know who she was at the time because I hadn't seen Mark of the Rani yet, but I remember them making a big deal that she was joining Dynasty. That was in a lot of the publicity. Well, I don't know, was she only in the main show or was she in the spin-off too?
Just the main show. She wasn't in the Colbys. Although she did audition for, I think initially she did audition for the Colbys because she said she auditioned with Stephanie Beecham, I think I read.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I loved about Kate O'Mara is the fact that you're quite right, she did Dynasty, and she apparently sort of literally wrote to John Nathan Turner in the middle of Dynasty and said, please get me out of this. I hate it. She hated, honestly, Gary, she hated all the glitz and the glamour. That just wasn't her. She hated all that. And so she said, please, I just want to be in a clay pit in Surrey somewhere as the Rani. And that was why she came back in Time of the Rani, because I think John Nathan Turner probably thought, oh gosh, she's in Hollywood now. We're never going to get Kate O'Mara back. And she asked to come back. And she'd already decided at that point she was not going to continue in Dynasty. She'd had enough of it. She came back to the UK and moved straight into a clay pit in Surrey.
Well, you know what? Those 80s American primetime soap operas, whichever they were, and there was a slew of them, those were all like revolving doors in casting. Everybody came for a year, then left. They were all revolving doors.
Yeah.
Got lots of comments in the live chat here. People full of affection here for Kate O'Mara, but people feeling largely, I think, as you are, Charlotte, have their reservations about the character of the Rani returning, and it's a hard one to predict because this isn't. In all fairness, I can see partly what Stephen Moffat was getting at when he said that nobody's heard of the Rani. She does get mentioned, even in tabloid articles. She would get trotted out as a list of creatures, but very few people had remembered her. And yet she's still not a blank slate, if you follow me. They can't just do anything with her.
No, and maybe that's my sort of guess would be maybe that's why some of the new Who writers and showrunners have sort of shied away from her, because I think like the Master, for example, or like I sort of say now, their version of the character is very sort of easy to write for, because you just have to have, well, he's going to take over the world, he's going to have an issue with the Doctor, and he's going to be crazy. Like, it just seemed to go to those 3 points in varying different ways. But like you said, with the Rani, it's a very different character. You can't just sort of swap in and out evil plot. You have to make it scientific. Yeah. You have to make it intelligent.
The story has to come first, doesn't it?
Yeah, you have to make it sort of, the scheme has to be a different kind of scheme as well.
Yeah. You can't just graft the Rani on to some
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's
villainous plot.
No. Sort of avoided going to her. But it's funny what you said about before, Simon, that she didn't like the glamour. Because like I sort of talked about before, that she, for me, is that perfect example of old school glamour.
Yes.
In this sort of idea of she could wear these out there outfits, she could wear something that on another actress probably wouldn't look good. but certain actresses of that time, you put them in those outfits, and they become like these stunning sort of visages.
I think
you get hypnotized almost just by the look, let alone when
I
they
think
start to talk.
I think what it was, Charlotte, it was the glamour of Hollywood that she didn't like. It was the sort of the artifice and the triviality of Hollywood that she didn't like. That was what she was against. But you're right, in her own world, she was an absolute vamp, and she was just glamour. But
then it's interesting. It's that idea of glamour, but then what I like about the old school version of that is the idea of you can look like that, and you look that good.
Yes.
And then you can sort of, like you said, in her own universe, sort of be this supermodel.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, the interesting thing is you've got a character that has got that vibe, but she's a scientist.
Yes.
And she's got the whole idea of her whole thing is, I want to experiment without any morals.
That was it.
I want to basically have free run to do what I want. And it's quite telling that if you think about how classic Time Lords are portrayed, how Gallifrey is especially portrayed, the fact that they had things like the Death Zone, they were willing to use the Master at one point as like an operative. So their morals were pretty sketchy at the best of times. But it says a lot that even those guys were like, Rani, you've crossed the line. You've gone too far. Like, that shows how deprived she actually was. And I
loved it. I loved it how when the Rani would talk about the Time Lords, she wasn't full of the kind of vengeance and venom in the way that the Master was. No. It was like, oh, sod them anyway.
She didn't care.
Well, yeah, you could just see it was this idea of they're just all buddies that didn't let me do what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's no... they didn't give me what I like. I'm better than them, like the Master had at times, or the Doctor sort of being really upset about what they became with her. Like you said, she didn't have that attachment. So actually, it'd be interesting to see if in these episodes how she talks about Gallifrey, considering at this point it's now gone. Is because we're so used to like having the Doctor sort of wax lyrical and be very sort of misty-eyed about Gallifrey and the past. We're used to the Master to an extent being like that now, even in times. So to actually have a Time Lord on screen that is quite detached from all of that, I'm wondering if they're going to go into that in the episode.
This is actually answered. Sorry.
Well, the feeling I always got, Matt, just picking up from what Charlotte was saying, the feeling I always got was that she got her own stuff going on. She got her own world. Maya Zamir Goria, that's called, isn't it? She commands all these aliens there, and she experiments on them, and she experiments in all sorts of different ways. That's kind of her play thing.
Yeah.
The way that she talks about it. So she doesn't really, there doesn't seem to be any hankering for any aspect of her earlier life. I mean, you could say the same about the Doctor as well. He never really seems to be to lament Gallifrey in the classic series at all, or feel that his exile from Gallifrey has hindered him in any way. And I think it was the same with the Rani. She was quite happy. I've got my world. I can do this. I can do that. I can satisfy. I can pursue my fields of interest and my scientific goals, Matt. And as long as nobody interferes with me, I won't interfere with them. And I think that's so interesting. It's not somewhere that Doctor Who goes very often now. But to be honest, Matt, it's not somewhere that popular culture, movies and TV shows go now. Everything has gone sort of mega... people either wear a black hat or a white hat, and there's not much grey area, I think, in the Star Wars and Star Trek and all this sort of thing.
I think it's hopefully it's answered the question of who picked up the gold tooth for the Master. The Master's gold tooth.
It could be her.
If it isn't, then it's going to go unanswered, and it's just it's another thing that Russell just thought he'd be clever or something, you know.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will be answered. If it does, I will give credit to Russell for doing that, for actually letting it go full circle. But if it doesn't, then this will be just another, thing that they've forgotten. So but I have a suspicion that possibly that the Master will come back in this and I'm hoping for some surprise, at least a surprise,
5
because
minutes at
we
this
knew
rate with the amount of characters.
Well, we knew with the we knew with the Rani that that was coming. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot not to know. So it's just
What else have they got? Shelley Ingle says, I've been thinking that New Who will turn out to be a universe that has been created by the Rani, and the Doctor's companions will turn out to be experiments to lure the Doctor into a trap. I don't know. I think that's quite a tall order. I think that's too big.
Right, something.
Storyline. And Stephen Braddock says the Rani was a scheming, amoral, unethical scientist, and that's what they must lose.
I'm suspecting Stephen probably means that's what they must not lose.
Yeah, I guess
lose,
that's a typo.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that was great about her, she didn't fall into the whole cliche, oh yeah, my experiments will help me rule the universe, which would have been cliche in the extreme. It was just, I'm a scientist, this is what I do. Will you guys please go away and stop bugging me so I can get on with my experiment?
My very favorite line, Gary, of the Rani in both of her stories is when she says, do humans think about the morals of the animals when they're sinking their chops into a lamb steak or whatever it is. It's a brilliant line. And I think Kate O'Mara was instrumental in putting that in herself, because she was a vegetarian. And I remember discovering that in the early 80s, and I'd just become vegetarian at the point that I discovered Kate O'Mara was vegetarian, and it gave me a real boost. I thought, wow, if Kate O'Mara's vegetarian, it works for me. And so she sort of fed that into, and it's a brilliant moral line. And you can't argue with the logic of it, can you, Gary? That nobody thinks about that when they're eating a beef burger. So why are those morals different to her morals?
In all seriousness, Simon, I think that Pip and Jane Baker get a bit of a rough deal.
Yes,
for some of the gobbledygook that's in their scripts, Gary, because there's some other dialogue in there that is playful, fun, and imaginative like that, and other lines which I don't know, just speak more to the relationships between the characters. They I wouldn't say they humanize the three Time Lords as such, but it does put them in. It does sell me on the idea that they're contemporaries, and that's something that a lot of writers may have been intimidated by. I think they get a rough deal.
I'm kind of curious if we're going to get a version of the line, "Leave the girl, it's the man I want." That's going to be that'll be really interesting to see if we get that. But no, there's a lot of good stuff in Time in the Rani. It wasn't written for Sylvester McCoy, but the effects the bubble effects in the story are great. Sylvester McCoy has a lot of good stuff in there where he kind of recognizes Mel, and he's like, Mel, that's a great moment.
It's lovely.
What I was just thinking, Simon, really quick, is that now I love Ghostlight like as it is. I think it's a great story, but the Rani could have fit in very well in Ghostlight. Running that experiment,
because it's a science experiment. It's a science experiment gone mad. I'm just thinking, Gary, what you're saying. You know what she will end up saying? Leave the man, it's the girl I want. That's what the twist's going to be.
No.
I'll call it now. The Rani will be a lesbian.
She'll say that about Conrad because she really wants Belinda then.
That's what the whole story is about, getting Belinda home. That's what it is.
Yes,
I'm trying to be a good. I'm trying to be a good boy. You don't want to plant any ideas about those two women in my head whilst I'm going live. Matthew Penn says the Rani had utter contempt for the Doctor and the Master. She thought they were both imbeciles.
That's right.
Yes.
And we've got Kieran Cole, who says, I had always wondered what happened to the Rani in the Time War. Did she make it through the Time War, or was she somewhere else in the universe? It seems that she must have been somewhere else doing whatever.
There's going to have to be at least one line about, that's why I said about it being interesting how they bring up Gallifrey, Time War. Because like I said, she's been gone for so long on screen, and so many things have happened, like really big events that she would have at least heard about, or probably gotten involved somehow. I can't see her not, even if it's just a little bit on the sidelines, and we're going to get told now.
It's possible.
It makes
is.
sense. It makes
And
sense though that the Ronnie would be able to figure out a way to save herself
Oh God,
in
yeah.
the Time War.
If anyone, and she'd be oblivious to anything that was going on.
Yeah, she wouldn't
with
care.
Entire civilization. As long as she's busy doing whatever, she wouldn't care what anybody else was doing.
Nope.
Yeah, I even get the impression that although she likes to power dress, it's pretty inconsequential to her what she looks like in the general sense. I mean, she may have looked like this. She may have looked like Siobhan Redmond. Siobhan played the character of the Rani in 2 big Finnish dramas 10 years ago now, in the Rani Elite and Planet of the Rani. Now, these were the first one, the Rani Elite, that was actually written for Kate O'Mara. So Kate O'Mara's agent did get in touch with David Richardson at Big Finish and said how Kate would like to reprise the role. And so they put it together. They got the scripts in order, and Justin Richards wrote the Rani Elite. But just as they were a few weeks away from recording, they got the news that Kate O'Mara had passed away. They consulted with Kate O'Mara's agent, and they advised that it had been Kate O'Mara's explicit wish that they proceed with a new incarnation of the character, that she believed that the character of the Rani could and should have an extended life with another actress. And so they cast Siobhan Redmond, herself a British character actress, a Scots actress, who again has been in a multitude of TV shows, things like Between the Lines, Al Fresco, comedy, drama, you name it, she can do it. And she was great as the Rani. So I have heard, if not seen, somebody else play this part. So maybe that's why I'm a little more receptive to somebody like Archie Panjab coming in and taking the role, maybe taking it forward. Obviously, it's too early to say.
I think it was very generous, actually, of Kate O'Mara to make that kind of statement. And just it's a credit to her, and just goes to show the kind of character and actress that she was herself.
She evidently believed in the character, and that interview did you mention it earlier on, Matt? You saw her give an interview around the time of the 50th anniversary, where she was speaking at that huge convention.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't think I'd ever seen her speak about Doctor Who at length and with that kind of affection before. I was really, I was hanging on her every word.
Yeah, it was a good interview.
Yeah.
She wasn't well at the time, and you could tell she didn't look well, bless her.
No.
But it was a great interview.
This is how I'll always remember the Rani, Kate O'Mara as the Rani, formidable, certain, and strong in both her will and her voice and her sense of style. I think people in the live chat dropping various comments. Lots of people seem to think the Master's going to be back in this finale. I think that personally, I do think that would be too much, far too much. Gary, less is more.
Part of me at this point is like, just go ahead and throw everything. Just do it all. Why not?
Kieran mentioned earlier on, Kieran Cole mentioned how much he thought Kate O'Mara, how good she was in Dimensions in Time. I agree. She played that again completely straight. And I am really quite fond of Dimensions in Time. And you couldn't have everybody play it so straight. But if you wanted somebody, if it was any element of that story that should be played straight, it should have been the villain. Because that was the only way you were going to get any kind of sense of threat or momentum about it at all, because the location was silly, the characters were silly, the story didn't make sense. So when she was waving that big gun around and saying all that stuff, you had to believe that she meant everything she was saying. And Kate threw herself into that with no less gusto than she had the 2 full-length adventures. I think she was brilliant, a consummate professional, lots of fun, and I don't think we see the like of her anymore. I mean, Michelle Gomez is clearly nuts. Sorry, in the nicest possible way. And I like people like that. I like those sort of eccentric kind of stars. But you're right, Charlotte. She also managed to, as well as being eccentric, I think she was eccentric with a small E. More than that, she had that kind of old school glamour about her. And whether that's going to be followed up on with the new incarnation, who's to say? But I can't wait. I can't wait to find out.
I got to say, I remember when in Time and the Rani, when she pretended to be Mel, and I was actually confused. She did such a good job of being Mel that I actually got confused between the two, because I was like, God, they're both bloody annoying, and I just thought it was the same person. And so I've got to say, yeah, she could certainly, she had a range, which sadly is lacking in Doctor Who today. That's for sure.
The story picks up, obviously, in just a couple of days' time after the dreaded bi-regeneration. That people have not warmed to this at all. And with an incarnation of the character, we're not sure how much of her we're going to recognize, are we? If at all. Well, I think this is fun. I agree with everybody's statements about how, why now and why like this, but I'm more than game to find out all of the answers. And I do like these blockbuster episodes, even if obviously last year's, and that's still something I'm not sure I'm over, the disappointment of Empire of Death. Wish World has got a preview in the Radio Times, again from Russell T Davies, and he says in his time-honoured way, everyone get ready to rejoice. The great day is coming.
Never knowingly underplayed.
In history, the clock is ticking and everyone is preparing for a joyous tomorrow when the whole world will change forever. Here we go. It's season finale time with a great big 2-part story blasting the roof off everything we've made before. Anything we've made before, sorry. Welcome to a strange new world. But what are the bone beasts? Why is Mrs. Flood hiding in the sky? And what secrets do the dispossessed keep? That's us, the dispossessed. We're the fans. And why is a mysterious message echoing across time and space saying, tables, don't do that?
That's intriguing. The last little bit intrigues me.
It is, isn't it? What on earth could the Rani have cooked up for us to be delivered on May the 24th? We do have, you'll be pleased to learn, we do have a trailer for the whole 2-parter coming up right now, Simon. Take a look at this. If this doesn't get you excited, Simon, nothing will. Check it out.
Poor old Earth died many years ago. On the old Earth date, May the 24th, 2025.
That was the day that I left. How can the whole world be dead?
Our name is the Rani. As for the Doctor, I will bring him absolute terror.
Belle! I am not just gonna take you home. I am gonna save your home. Here we go.
Go back. Find me.
That is the sound of May the 24th.
Let battle begin.
You know what my first thought was? Oh, I forgot Mel's in this as well.
I didn't know she was.
No, I knew she was in
I
it. I just completely forgot.
Do you think she'll recognise her? Well, either of them will recognise one another.
We should.
Yeah, you should.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to care.
Me too.
The 2-part season finale begins this coming Saturday, as warned. Saturday, the 24th of May, 2025, at 6:50. There on BBC One. You can play it. You can stream it on iPlayer and Disney Plus, and then on BBC One, its traditional time slot later on that evening. Will he get Belinda home in time for whatever? Because we still don't know. They've got to bring that story to a close as well. There is a lot riding on this. Okay, it's only 8 weeks, but I thought this was a great story with a lot of momentum at the start that they kind of forgotten in the end. I think it was a big shame, but here's hoping they really deliver on something for everybody in that extended runtime of a couple of hours. Sorry, mate. That means this must be the spot, the time where golden faces and golden voices from Doctor Who's long and distinguished past all flog us bits of everyday household tat from way back when and then in the pre-Amazon days. It's the Type 40 Live Doctor Who ad break. Get a load of this. See you in a couple of minutes.
Testamentin Kate O'Mara tuli Suomeen filmaamaan. Sinäkin, Kate, ajat Chrysler Simcalla. Oletko tyytyväinen?
Erittäin tyytyväinen. Fantastinen auto.
Koe aja sinäkin. Chrysler Simca. Fantastinen auto.
Did you know that an instantaneous electric shower uses on average 75% less energy than a bath?
Well, I'll be blowed.
Or that insulating your home properly can reduce your heating costs by up to 30%?
Well, I make it 30.1% actually.
Or that this international airport terminal with electric heat recovery saves a third of its energy costs?
I'm all for saving energy.
At home or work, electricity can do so much more for you these days and uses less energy to do it. Ask at your local electricity board how we can save you energy and money.
Welcome back to Type 40 Live on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook there. I'm all for saving energy indeed. I don't know. Here we are. We're back in the console room, ready to give you more, yet more news and views and banter and nostalgia from across the Whoniverse. So, yeah. Oh, there he is. He's still in session. But we have got a panel before us, I'm happy to say. Where are you guys? What's going on? There we are. Here we are.
And we're back.
We're back in the room, as they say, back in the room. So yeah, seen those adverts before, Simon?
Nope. Not. I don't think I've seen any of those before. Don't remember them anyway.
Classics. You'd think that Kate O'Mara would be a little more, I don't know, a little more dignified than to be flogging us of energy, simple energy deals and old bangers, wouldn't you? But then again, I suppose in the first one, it being abroad, nobody would have seen in Britain. Nobody would know.
But, you know, it's interesting, even though, yeah, they're commercials, she still has such a commanding presence. Like, even when she's walking through a restaurant, it's like she owns it. It's,
yeah.
Even in
Got
like
gravitas.
5 seconds. Yeah.
We have more comments in the live chat. We've got Duncan Goodhue. Well spotted, Domgo. The great Duncan Goodhue, swimming sensation. He was a bald fella, wasn't he, in the shower?
Yeah.
He was never off TV in the 80s, was he, Simon?
Absolutely. Endlessly everywhere.
Strange image, says Tom Haynes. We do the very best in strange images here at Type 40 Live. Yeah, and whilst all of that is really exciting, all the wars and worlds and wishes and all that jazz, just as stimulating, I think, Simon, is everything that exists in Doctor Who's distinguished past. It's rich and very illustrious and odd and peculiar. Thankfully, we do have the Doctor Who diary, don't we?
We do.
Guide
we
the way.
do.
So it's been a couple of weeks, Simon. I think people are sort of chomping at the bit.
Yeah, we've got a quirky one, very quirky one this week. Yeah.
Regular skip through the pages. So if it's your first time watching us, because we do have lots of new names in the live chat there, lots of comments. Thanks for all of that. This is the bit where we get all warm and very, very cozy with the Doctor Who diary, which, as you can tell, I'm trying to buy a little bit of time for the video to load.
Very good.
Nobody could tell.
Very subtle, Dan.
Have you got it ready now, or do we need to just keep?
We are experiencing some sort of time delay. I think it's time spillage from the run.
It's not like we're live. You can neaten it up in the edit, Dan. It's all fine. Yes. Welcome one and all to the Doctor Who Diary. So if there are new people in the the chats that have not seen this before, yeah, this is, Dan says, is when we spin back through the last 60 odd years of Doctor Who to see what was happening this week in the Doctor Who world. So firstly, look at a couple of very, very quick rundown of the episodes that were screening. 17 new episodes this week, back through the years. 1964 saw the Aztecs episode 1 starting, as mentioned earlier on, which is great because we've talked about Susan. Of course, Susan's character, Carol Ann Ford, and so she, of course, is one of the stars of the Aztecs, which was starting. Still my favourite William Hartnell story by a long chalk. If you've never seen a William Hartnell story, start with the Aztecs, will be my advice. But back in 1969, the War Games, it was just over halfway through. I can't believe we've been talking about the War Games for the past 6 weeks already in the diary, and we're still only just halfway through it. 2005 New Who brought us The Empty Child. That's one of my personal favourites of the Chris Eccleston series. Anybody else like The Empty Child?
Yeah, I prefer the first part of it.
Yeah, I agree, Charlotte.
Because it's all the setup, and you don't understand what's happening with the child yet.
Yeah, and I think it struggles a little bit in the second half to quite get away with the weirdness of the first half.
I think it was anticlimactic in the second one.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't quite work for me. But the first half is cracking. So that was this week in 2005. 2007 saw 42, which is one of my personal favourite David Tennant episodes, actually. I know some people sort of don't rate it. I loved 42. Thought it worked really, really well. Yeah, it's a good. It's a cracking story. So so lots of episodes going on this week, but also a few birthdays. Graham Williams, bless him, Graham Williams would have been 80 this week. Michael Wisher, the late great Michael Wisher, playing the original Davros, would have been 90 this week. Sadly, these people aren't with us. Somebody who is with us, and we are celebrating the birthday of today, and that is John Flanagan. We are wishing a very, very happy birthday to John Flanagan, who might not be an overly familiar name to you, but John Flanagan was the writer of Meglos, as can clearly be seen on the right-hand side there, along with Andrew McCulloch. John Flanagan wrote Meglos back in 1980 for screening in 1981. And it actually means that John, as I say, is 81 today. Happy birthday, John. And he, along with Andrew McCulloch, who also is still with us, means that they are the two earliest surviving writers that are still with us in Doctor Who today. Sadly, everybody else prior to them has passed to the great unknown. But John Flanagan, I say, very happy 81st birthday today to John. I liked Meglos at the time. I really struggle with it now.
Yeah,
I
like Meglos.
Yeah, you like it, Matt? It works.
Yeah, I can still watch it if it's on TV. I'll watch it. Yeah, no, to me, because this is around the same time that we'd had Pertwee and older Tom Baker for the longest period of time, and when this hit, this was brand new Doctor Who, and it was like, and I remember like very early, I was like, oh wow, you know, I can still sit and watch it today. I love it, and the vision of, you know, him as a
cactus,
as a cactus and pickle.
I agree.
He was a pickle.
I agree. I struggle with it because it feels a bit like a sort of hangover from season 17. But who doesn't want to see Tom Baker as a cactus? It just, you know, he is breathtakingly good as a cactus. Only Tom Baker can play a cactus.
As an evil turn, you know.
It's just genius. So the gimmick of it is worth it for that alone.
It's the voices. It's the voices, the shrilly voices, and it just gives me the creeps. I remember watching it at the time, and I must have been only about 6, 7, and I was like, I just remember it. It was just creepy for me. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good story. As I say, I think it's let down really by the production rather than the script itself. Christopher H. Bidney, the new script editor at the time on the show, had specifically sought out new writers for the show, and he knew John Flanagan from previous work, which is why he booked John and Andrew McCulloch to write Meglos, and it's the first and only time that they worked on the show. It was also known as The Last Zolfa Thuren, which I always thought was a far superior title to Meglos. Didn't you, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the evocative titles. And if I remember, and you'll know, correct me if I'm wrong, Simon, that I remember the TARDIS novelization, like adding to the story to kind of bulk it up a little.
Yes. That's correct. Yeah, Terrence Dix does a good job on bulking it out a little bit. My favourite fact about Meglos is that John Flanagan came up with the idea of calling one of the characters Brotadak. Brotadak is there on the right-hand side of the screen. I'm trying to say, I think he's the one at the back. I can't quite see, but Brotadak. They called him Brotadak because it's an anagram for bad actor, and John Flanagan was convinced that they would get a bad actor to play the part, so they thought they'd be very clever by calling the part bad actor Brotadak. And yet, I just love the name Brotadak. It's just such a Doctor Who name.
It is.
Go on, sorry, Charlotte.
No, sorry, no, it is. It's sort of.
It is. It is, isn't it? Another Doctor Who name is Grugger, which was the part played by Bill Fraser. But everybody mispronounced the name as Grudger, and John Flanagan and Andrew McCulloch got quite annoyed about this, that everybody mispronounced it. They wanted Lee Marvin for that part. They couldn't. I don't think they could quite afford Lee Marvin.
It's nice to have an elderly villain for once.
Yeah, you're right. He's great because
he was a nasty
really
piece of
gruff,
work.
isn't he? He plays a fantastic part, and of course he appears later on in K9 and Company. Comes back in K9 and Company.
I have to say, look at all these birthday greetings here for John Flanagan in the live chat. I mean, I'd like to think that he's watching, but this is what I love. This is the spirit of Type 40 Live and the Doctor Who Diary. Thank you so much for all these comments here. But check this out, Simon.
Well, you're quite right, Domgo. Even Tom's poorest stories are superb. They are indeed, and it's fantastic. It's they by the way, going back to the villain himself as a cactus, they were struggling. John Flanagan and Andrew McCulloch were struggling to find a villain for their brilliant genius piece, and apparently they were sitting at the kitchen table, sort of looking at each other, saying, "What are we going to have as a villain?" And there was a wilting, dying cactus on the kitchen top. And that was what gave them the inspiration to make Meglos a cactus. It's just genius.
I love how in our show, it's like, how do I think of a villain? There's a pepper pot.
There you go, Charlotte.
That's all you need. And you can make iconic villains.
There you go. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
A quick shout out, hello, call out to Tom from T Dwarf Productions.
Hello, Tom.
Unsurprisingly, cactus are his favourite plants.
Of course they are. Of course they are. I wouldn't expect anything else. Tiny bit of background about John. Born in 1947 in Ripley in Yorkshire. I know it well. It's a lovely place. I love Yorkshire. He also worked on things like The Royal, Heartbeat, Ballykiss Angel, Peak Practice, and Boone. So you might not know the name, and not many people do know the name, but he's got a long and illustrious career of television writing. He was also an actor, so he appeared in things like The Sweeney. He was in The Medusa Touch, which is a cracking film from the late 70s, which also has Ian Marter in a very, very brief role in it. If you haven't seen The Medusa Touch, track it down. Brazil, he was also in the film Brazil. Crown Court, but everybody was in Crown Court back in the 70s. Yet again, we mentioned Crown Court. Every week we mention Crown Court. He was also in Coronation Street, as you can see there on the right-hand side. That is a shot from Coronation Street. And Casualty. So he did lots as an actor as well. So he's multi-talented. Is our John Flanagan. However much you might think you don't know him, he's out there and he's done a lot of stuff. Interestingly, he did. Although, as I say, Meglos was the only script that John Flanagan and Andrew McCulloch worked on, they were due to do a second one, which would have followed Legopolis, called Project Zeta Sigma. Which again, it's just like, I want to see a story, Gary, called Project Zeta Sigma, don't you? It's tantalizing.
That was supposed to be Davison's first story, right?
100% correct. It was indeed. It would have followed on directly from Legopolis, and would have featured a story about nuclear disarmament, an alien Cold War scenario, and the Master would have been in that orchestrating it. And sadly, it was cancelled by Anthony Root as the new script editor. Barry Letts approved the cancellation in the absence of John Nathan Turner, which apparently did cause some degree of controversy, as you can imagine. You can imagine the air was blue, I would imagine, on that particular day that John Nathan Turner came back into the office. So yeah, we would deny that. Trying to think, I don't know. I ought to look this up. I don't know whether Project Zeta Sigma has ever been produced by Big Finish. It's possible that it has. I don't know. I think it has either.
Don't give them ideas.
Well, I'd like to hear it though. In a way, though, Matt, I would like to hear it because
the sad thing is, if it has, I've probably got it and I've forgotten all about it. But I don't think that's any reflection on John. I think that's more of a reflection on Big Finish pumping out so much.
I've got to say though, a couple of years ago, actually, one of the fan audios I like to listen to, did a sequel to Magdalos.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, so it was set afterwards. And what was really good about it was, I think it was about 40-minute audio, and I think it worked really well with the whole idea of the shape-shifting aspect in audio. And for like 3/4 of it, you thought it was him playing his normal Doctor, and then literally at the last quarter, they revealed it was Meglos.
Wow.
And it was all a sequel.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I was just like, what a way to hide that this is actually you doing an after.
That's cool.
And he played that. That was what was really good about it was he was playing it straight, the Doctor that he'd been playing in his audios for years. So I just thought, oh, this is him in like this space station. And then when you listen back, there was little lines that were hinting that this wasn't the Doctor.
That's great.
But because you didn't know going in it was a sequel, it was only after you watched it, you were like, listen to it, you were like, oh, so that's why that bit happened, because he wasn't being the Doctor and only the Doctor would have got that right. And then I'll see if I can find it in the comments.
Yeah. I'm interested to know what that is.
Please.
We'd all like to take a listen to that.
And you can have a listen to it, see what you think.
We'd all like to hear that. But I agree with Ian Scales' comment at the moment. I would never have wanted to lose Castrovalva, a beautiful story. You're quite right, Ian Scales. I love Castrovalva. But it's a shame that Zeta Sigma couldn't have been pushed further down the season or something like that, because it just sounds a tantalising idea, and I would like to have heard it. Anyway.
It does sound like this was a good fit, John Flanagan, with this series. He had lots of ideas, evidently.
Yes. And there were big ideas. Say nobody else had come up with the idea of turning the villain into a cactus and then making the Doctor into the cactus as well. It's just a genius idea, and so I think it's we applaud him for that alone. So happy 81st birthday today to John. I would imagine he probably is watching our show. I doubt very much if he's out having a nice family meal or anything like that. He'll just be sitting at home watching our show, and he'll have been tuning in every year, waiting for us to talk about his birthday on this very day. So we have done finally. And before we move on, I'm guessing, Charlotte, we are about to lose you, are we?
You are. I find it funny that somebody in the chat was like 15 minutes ago, we've got 15 more minutes of Charlotte.
You're going to miss some great stuff in the diary. You'll have to watch it on playback.
Yeah, but like I said, I will put in the comments that fan audio if people want to check it out, because it's actually a really good one. So I will see you all. See you guys on Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Good luck.
More on Saturday. See you later, Charlotte. Take care.
Good night.
The one thing, Simon, that always bugged me about the whenever I see pictures of Meglos, and they did this on a Doctor Who monthly cover, and I think it was 46, is they always show the picture of Tom Baker with his skin.
Gloves.
I'm going, don't do that.
The gloves. I know. Yeah, it's the one with the yellow cover, isn't it?
The yellow cover.
You're quite right. It's so annoying. I remember being gutted by that as a child, that you could see the skin. You could see he was wearing gloves. Nonetheless, it's fantastic makeup, and apparently Tom Baker was very, very grumpy about having it on. You'll be surprised to hear. But no wonder.
Scratch his nose, could he?
He certainly couldn't scratch it. He couldn't do anything, Matt. He couldn't do any. Certainly couldn't go to the loo either. You wouldn't want to go to the loo with those gloves on.
You didn't even think about that. You imagine people with long nails, that's bad enough.
So moving on from John Flanagan, to say very happy birthday to John Flanagan. Now we move into a very, very strange one here, and bear with me on this one. Firstly, it should be pointed out, it would be completely wrong of us not to point this out. 29 years ago on Tuesday that we sadly lost John Pertwee back in 1996.
Oh, wow.
I know, can you believe it, Matt? I cannot believe it's 29 years ago.
Gosh.
Since we lost.
I remember the news.
This man, and I certainly grew up with this man. I've always said that Tom Baker was my doctor because he was the one that was there when I just became obsessed with Doctor Who. But I lived through most of the John Pertwee stuff. I watched most of it as a child, and so this man just meant the world to me as a kid. So yeah, I can't believe it is 29 years ago on Tuesday, just gone, that we lost John Pertwee. So we're having a slightly different way of remembering John Pertwee this week. Interestingly, it's nice. I'm pleased to say that there are lots of John Pertwee episodes this week that were screening. 1970, you were in the middle of Inferno. 1972, the Time Monster episode 1 was starting. The Green Death was kicking off with episode 1 in 1973, and Planet of the Spiders episode 4 was screening back in 1974 this week. And as I also mentioned earlier on, the Demons episode 1 was screening today back in 1971. The Demons kicked off today in 1971. So it's rather lovely that we've got lots of John Pertwee episodes in the week that we lost him. But this is the thing, we actually now dial the coordinates right back to 1941. We're going back 84 years ago on Saturday that actually John Pertwee did not die, and probably should have died, incredibly. He survived and went on to become Doctor Who. But in many ways, he could well, in another world, in a sliding doors, turn left moment, John Pertwee could well have died 84 years ago on Saturday, and that's because at this time, in 1941, he was Petty Officer John Devon Rowland Pertwee, serving on the HMS Hood in World War II. There you can see HMS Hood actually on the top of your picture there, with John Brown, the company that built the Hood. That was one of their advertising brochures. They were very, very proud of this battleship. But there's a very strange turn of fate here, because, as I say, Pertwee was acting as a petty officer serving on the Hood back in 1941, and it was today in 1941, on the 22nd of May, that Pertwee got told that he had passed his qualifications test to enter into officer training, and he was ordered to leave the Hood immediately on the same day. And without a doubt, this is what saved his life, because then 2 days later, on May the 24th, as I say, Saturday coming up, Hood departed for the Atlantic and was engaged in what became known as the Battle of the Denmark Strait against the German battleship Bismarck. And I think you probably guessed by now, sure enough, the Bismarck won the battle, and unfortunately Hood succumbed and sank in 3 minutes, killing 1,415 souls on board, and only 3 people survived. And so had Pertwee been on the ship on that day, it's almost certain that he would have lost his life, along with the other 1,415 sailors that died that day. And we would not be now sitting here talking about John Pertwee. That is a painting by a German artist of the Hood as it sinks. behind. There was another ship in battle at the time that was assisting in the battle that survived the battle, but the hood, as you can see, did not, and it went down bow first and sank virtually vertically, as I say, in under 3 minutes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I love the fact that it's a moment. No, but I'm talking about the painting.
Yeah.
The
painting
it's
it's
a moment,
dramatic, isn't it?
It's a moment. Yeah, that's just caught in time. That they didn't have cameras.
Yeah,
at that
as I
point
say, it went down prow first, so the bow was up in the air, and as I say, the ship was virtually vertical as it went down. And as I say, 3 minutes, so it was obviously nobody's going to survive. They still don't know to this day quite what sank the ship. It was certainly torpedoed, undoubtedly, by the Bismarck, because the Bismarck was the only one that was capable of firing torpedoes of that magnitude, and they think that the artillery guns, the magazines, the just exploded, the ammunition, basically. That shot that you can now see is taken from the sister ship that was in the battle, and that is the hood in the background there, just having taken the hit. You can see the fire out of the top of the funnel, and so it's already about this is the very last shot photograph of the hood ever taken before it sank, because they knew it was going down at that point, and it was far too late to save anybody on board. And as I say, Pertwee would undoubtedly have been on board, and it's just so ironic that bless him, he died in the same week as the anniversary of that, because in 1 week back in 1941, in the middle of May, he survived, and then sadly, many years later, in 1996, he left us. Happy as sort of ending to the story, as I say, he obviously did survive, and he went on to do his training, and from his training, he went on to work at British intelligence, where he met the great Ian Fleming, and went on to teach agents how to use James Bond style spy tools, which is just rather perfect for John Pertwee, who was always known sort of as the James Bond of Doctor Who. And you wonder whether is that where he sort of learned his love of gadgets? Difficult to say, but he certainly worked in British intelligence for some time, teaching how to use Bond style spy tools. And there, of course, he is in the Navy Lark, which was the radio show that he went on to star in, and that was what made him an absolute...
I didn't know Ronnie Barker was in it.
I'm trying to think. This might be the precursor to it, or it might be the one after it.
Was he in the movie? There was a movie, wasn't there?
Is there a movie?
Yeah, I'm
apparently
pretty sure
there is
a movie.
Is there?
Of some description.
Yeah, but I don't know if
think
he's in it. I know Leslie Phillips is, and I just didn't know if this was a promo shot for that.
Could be. I don't know. I mean, there was so much happening at this time.
Running radio shows.
Yeah,
the cast did alter quite drastically over a 10, 15, 20 year period.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought he did some in the 80s or 90s again, didn't he? Didn't he do it for a very long time?
He did, and I don't think he came back to do the Navy Lark. I could be wrong on that, but he did so much of this kind of stuff. It was this that made his name. Oh, there we go. Darren Apken is saying in the chat that Ronnie Barker was indeed in the radio version, and this was what made Pertwee a household name. Which is why he was very well known when he came to the role of the Doctor. He was a known name at that point, but very few people knew what he looked like because he'd done so much stuff on radio, and people expected him to play exactly the same as he had played the parts in the Navy Lark, and of course it was completely different. So yeah, as I say, it's sort of a bittersweet. On the one hand, we kept him, and on the one hand, we then lost him. Sometime later. By the way, I can see that Ian Scale, he said in the chat, I wonder who painted that. I've got the name, and I will pop it in the chat in a little time. When I finish the diary, we'll put it in the chat for you, Ian. It was a German painter that painted it, and I'll find out the details. I have got it here when I can dig through my notes and find it for you. So yeah, that was sort of a nice way of remembering John Pertwee on quite a significant anniversary, as I say, the sad departure of him from our earthly world to better places. And finally, we're going way off piste for our very final entry in the diary this week. And you will forgive me all, because this is very self-indulgent on my part. But exactly 35 years ago, in 1990, there was an exhibition called the People's Show that opened in the Walsall Art Gallery, Walsall Museum and Art Gallery. As I say, this was back in 1990, 35 years ago. For anybody that doesn't know Walsall, and why would you? It's a little market town in the West Midlands, and that's where I was born, and that's where I grew up, and I still don't live a million miles away from. And so I am delighted to say that I actually was part of the People's Show. But there I am. That's
That's
Stop
great.
laughing at home, everybody. That is.
Who is that handsome man?
That is a photo of me taken back in 1990 and used as part of the publicity for this. It was actually taken by the newspaper, but they then used it as part of the publicity for the People's Show. What the People's Show was is it was an exhibition in the Walsall Art Gallery by lots of local people, all with their weird and wonderful collections. Guess which collection I had in the People's Show? There were other things. There were things like football shirts, action figures, die-cast cars, buttons. Somebody was there with Madonna. There were novelty soap collections. There were Smartie tops. Do you remember those little round plastic tops that were on the top of Smartie tubes? Somebody had got those. Somebody else had a collection of sick bags. So you kind of get the idea. I'm not kidding you. I'm deadly serious. There was a collection of airline
unused,
sick
hopefully.
bags. No, they were not used, Gary. There is my collection. I'm afraid it's a very muddy picture because it's one of the publicity pictures that was taken by the papers. And so I'm afraid it's very poor quality, but you can see at the top of the picture there, you will see a TARDIS tent that we have talked about many times on the show before. You'll see a Dennis Fisher TARDIS there. On the left-hand side, there is a John Pertwee, a Patrick Troughton annual that I wish I still had. It's proof that I did have it one of those days a long time ago, exactly 35 years ago, and I somehow got rid of it. There's a TARDIS tuner in there for anybody that can find it. There's a Remus play kit in there for anybody that can find it, right in the center of the shot. This was my entire collection. There was about 1,000 items that went in there. Wow. There I am. There. Stop laughing. Stop.
Oh no, I'm laughing at the items.
I'm laughing. It's all good. I can laugh at this now. So that's me as, how old was I? 22. I was there. And so, there's my TARDIS tuner just underneath my chin. A mint condition TARDIS tuner. Oh, I wish I had that now. And all those Dennis Fisher dolls, they're all gone. They're all gone. I no longer have any of this, but this all went on show in Walsall. And
I've got, I had the TARDIS money box. The one next to the K9 at the front, I had that. In fact, the original one that I had was broken in a cleaning incident in 1988, which still makes me grind my teeth at night, Gary. But I have managed to get another one since. I got some of those jigsaws as well.
Bless you. Those jigsaws, again, those jigsaws that were all in pretty much mint condition, and they've all gone. It's tragic. But in many ways, I actually came across this photograph was taken by a photographer called, wait for it, Ming Dynasty. Do you see what she did there? Yeah, it wasn't her real name, I'm guessing, but she's still out there, bless her. Ming Dynasty, I had a lovely conversation with her recently because this photo came to light. I can't even remember how I came by this photo. I hadn't got a copy of the photo, and Ming Dynasty, I think, somehow contacted me and said, ooh, look what I found while I was going through the archives. And we hadn't spoken for 35 years since the day she took the photograph. But somehow we reconnected and we're still in touch now. And so she sent me a copy of the photo. And so what happened in the exhibition, she took photos of all of the exhibitors. And so next to your exhibition, there would be a photograph of you. She was commissioned to do these. Kes the Drone, this is the peakdom of geekdom. I'm sorry. We are well and truly there. I was interviewed on local radio and on Midlands Today, which is the BBC news programme around here. Remarkably, don't ask me how this happened. I forgot my age when they asked me how old I was on Midlands Today. What can you say? But it was great. They were very, very happy days. And 10,000 people came through the doors and saw the People's Show. which was a record. It was the biggest attendance figure in the history of the museum. I don't think they were coming just to see my Doctor Who collection. I think they were probably more likely to come in to see the collection of sick bags, but you know, you can't have it all.
Now, Simon, did you have to go and like apply to this to say, hey, I have a great collection.
Yeah.
Would you be interested?
Yes. Basically, what happened, Gary, is I had just started the Whonitics at the time, which was the local group in the area. It had been going about 2 years at that point. And so one of the members said to me, oh, did you know that they're asking for collections? Should you apply? And so sure enough, I did apply. Yeah, you had to fill in an application form. And then they obviously wanted to come out and see your collection, all the rest of it. And that's what happened. And then you sort of got booked from there. And I had to go in. I spent a day in there. I took all of my collection in, and I spent a day. And you were given a little area. It was a decent sized pod you were given, probably about sort of 2 meters by 2 meters, where you just went in and you arranged your stuff in there. I remember the day there were loads of students in there helping out, and they played the Smiths all day long. While it was the longest day of my life, listening to the Smiths all day long, while I was trying to find another corner for another postcard of Richard Herndl, which I can just say I did manage to find a corner for. So it was very, very happy time, and it was up there for about 2 months, as I recall. The exhibition was there for about 2 months, and occasionally I would go in and stand proudly next to my exhibition and chat to people as they came in.
Simon, I've got to say, you're a better person than me. If I had my entire Doctor Who collection, I would not want to like go out of the building. I was like, I would want to take it with me every night. It's like, I'm not leaving this here. Are you nuts?
I think I was a bit crackers at the time. I did borrow, I have to say.
Well, no, I wasn't saying you're crackers, but it's like I would be panicked every night that something would happen.
Something wasn't pilfered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I say, for full disclosure, some of the stuff I did actually borrow. There were some items that I didn't own. I can't quite remember what they were now off the top of my head.
Well, those can get stolen. That's all right. It's just as long as your stuff is intact.
Yeah, totally. But then, as I say, I got rid of it all, Gary. It all went. I don't own a single item.
Well,
not a single thing of it.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you, Simon.
I have to ask Simon on either of those pictures that Dan's been showing. If you could go back and just get one of the items in those pictures that Dan's been putting up, what would it be?
I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. If you can bring the picture back up again, Dan, the color picture, the large color picture, that one. Can you see right at the bottom of the screen there, underneath the two K9s, you can just about make out a silver figure.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is a fine art castings figure of SV7 that I made and I painted myself. And although I say it myself, it was beautiful. I painted that figure beautifully, and it's gone. And that is the one thing I regret more than anything getting rid of, because I painted it. And that's what I'd give anything to go back in time and just snatch that from the table and put it safe. But you know what? That was the best thing when this photo was sent to me by Ming Dynasty. And thank you, Ming. I know she is out there, and I will send her this video because I know she'll be really chuffed to see this. When Ming sent me that photo, I almost cried. I'm getting a bit emotional thinking about it now, because suddenly, although I'd lost the figure, I'd forgotten that it was on the table when we had the photo taken. And so although it's only half the figure, it's at least immortalized, and I have a form of record of that SV7 that I made.
It's painful. Seriously, it's painful to hear you recount it.
I know. But we've all got stories like that, Gary. We've all got stories.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
That's part of being a fan. It's what we've loved and what we've lost through the years. So there you go. So thank you for allowing me to be a little bit self-indulgent on that one. It just seemed, they were very, very happy days of Doctor Who for me at its peak, and my love of the show at its peak, and fandom. And I was just coming into fandom, and I was meeting people like you, Dan. I think we met in 1989, 1990.
1989. Yeah, you looked exactly like that as you did in that first picture. Yeah.
There you go. So
and,
we've known each
Simon,
other.
Wasn't there some pictures of this in Second Dimension, or am I misremembering?
Yeah. There are some pictures in Second Dimension. Anybody that remembers Second Dimension, which is the magazine that the Whonitics did at the time, well, I did for the Whonitics, and yeah, there are some photos in that particular issue from June 1990. Yeah, if you've got the issue and you're lucky enough, yeah, there are some photos, some more photos of it. There you go. You can go back and find them, Gary.
Yep.
So there we go. So that is the diary for another week. That was I told you it was a bit out there. That was I told you it was a bit of a crazy diary, that one. And we didn't talk about a single one of the episodes really that screened.
Well, the book is bigger on the inside, and there's more than enough room, isn't there, for any kind of fact, a date, or occasion from across the Whoniverse, wherever it took place, even Warsaw. Simon, I think all this stuff is just delightful, because I think it's easy to forget now in the corporate 21st century, with Doctor Who attached to such things as Disney Plus, and where it's not just where it started, but where it sat, where it lived and breathed in Britain in particular. And I think it was the same in Canada and Australia, and probably in pockets of America too, Gary, where people would they would celebrate it, they would explore their interest, and they would showcase it on tabletops in garages and sheds, and they would get together with friends in the most humble, innocent, inventive, imaginative, and simply sweet ways. And that definitely lines up with that. I didn't know anything about that event when you began telling me about it. I thought, what's that about? But it's delicious stuff. All of this is a snapshot of a time now. Now and again, you see flashes of it. You see things pinned to notice boards in supermarkets for events that are kind of similar, and they would be similar, but they always involve touchscreens in some way.
Yes,
and rather than tablecloths and blue tack and all that kind of stuff. So it's a brilliant entry, Simon. Another generous selection of goodies from the Doctor Who diary. Look, everybody, we've had some great comments out there in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X as we've strolled through the history of Doctor Who there. Thank you, everybody. Simon, so do I, says Domgo. So do I.
I'm curious whether the guy with the sick bag still has his collection.
Good point. If you're out there, let us know, sick bag guy.
That's right.
Yep.
Can't remember what his name was, I have to be honest.
Was it Neil Gatsby? Neil, was it you, mate? Was it you? Fly Highland says it's fantastic to see personal documentation from a fan. And everybody, I think, is picking out their various bits and pieces from the collection there that they wouldn't mind owning, Matt. Such as Richard Brooks, who loves the Marx Rolam Dalek.
Yeah, and Richard Brooks asks, can you still get the SV7 model? No, you can't, Richard, but I am very lucky. I did actually manage to track one down on eBay a few years ago, so I've got the model. I just haven't been brave enough to try painting it up again like I painted last time, because it just won't be as good as I did it first time round, but one of these days, maybe.
You perfectionist. That was more than good enough. That entry in the Doctor Who diary was absolutely perfect. Thank you again, Simon.
Thank you.
Can't wait for the next lot. Absolute gold. This is Type 40 Live on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Thank you, everybody, for all of the comments. Well said, Dan, says Richard Brooks. What did I say?
Whatever, just run with it.
A fab installment of the diary, says Matthew Pounder. Thank you, everyone, says Lord Thoth. Everyone. Thank you, Simon. And Domgo says again, Simon, the best part of the show.
Get out of here.
Tom reminds us that my Uncle Chris is part of the Whonitics.
Yes.
Still very much a thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know your Uncle Chris well. We've met up since. So, yeah, absolutely. He is part of the Whonitics, still very much so.
Awesome. And you are part of it all here at Type 40 Live. Not quite done just yet. Something else we're going to touch on and explore in our own way. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's quickly time to fly the flag for the talent, dedication, and creativity that's out here in the Doctor Who fandom in spades. It's second to none, and so there's never any shortage of pretty pictures to distract us from the dull, everyday, pudding-brained lives that we lead. It's not completely selfless, obviously, even though we've always done all that we can to showcase and encourage fan art and fan artists in our virtual gallery. Really, it's to brighten up these bloody horrible grey walls there. My God, to look at this after looking at the Rani's TARDIS, it doesn't even compare, does it? I'd take 80s nightclub wine bar chic over this any day. So we want to fill up the walls with digital or traditional art, Gary. Maybe a little something from model makers or cosplayers and crafters. It's all fair game. It all counts. And this time, as ever, we have some artwork directly inspired by that most recent episode of Doctor Who. There's been quite a lot out there, as you can imagine, over the last few weeks. And lots of artists have been inspired, believe it or not, by the Interstellar Song Contest. Firstly, there's this piece. This is from Matthew Purchase over on X. And there's a lot going on in this. It sort of captures that kind of stars in your eyes feel that the sets had there. It's supposed to be the most expensive episode of Doctor Who ever made, that was. Could have bloody fooled me in places. But yeah, Matthew's captured it quite nicely there and managed to include a myriad of elements from the story itself, including, this is Ryan and Clark, we'll forgive you there, but you've got the Doctor sort of floating in space. You've got that weird little creature that does the funny dance, the cat woman, and all that kind of thing.
Muppet.
So yeah, it was a bit far out, wasn't it? That the thing is, they're releasing
sorry,
the
that
song.
just took the piss.
Where's the crotch cannon?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you'd have put that in, it would have been perfect, Matt, wouldn't it?
What? I don't even want to know what you're talking about.
Well, okay. Remember one of your favorite stories, and mine too, Simon Ford of Doomsday, where the Doctor actually makes proper use of the concept of momentum to use with the cricket ball to get him over.
Yes.
So now he's floating in space. He can actually swim. He kind of swims in space over to this confetti cannon.
Oh, because you can do that.
He puts the confetti cannon in a particular spot and then blows the confetti cannon and uses that to propel himself back to the ship.
Don't forget he was frozen.
Yes.
Because he had no clothes on. He was like half naked.
When you describe it like that, Gary, you make it sound silly.
Oh, okay. But Simon, I didn't add Simon that it was all done with dignity.
I'm pulling your leg, of course I am. Excellent, very eye-catching, says Stephen Braddock. We've got the cat worlery, says Philip Roy.
I'm just waiting for this to all come in retrospective.
Domgo says there's nothing you can do to address this turd of an episode, but I think Matthew has done a nice job here. I'm getting Eurovision flashbacks, says Matthew Pounder. Tremendous artwork, says Rob Alexander. He kind of likes that one. And we have, what else we've got? Zero Room says, and he was thrown into the ship. No one was pushed out. So he's still talking about the science, I think, of the episode there. Kess the Drone says it was a golden confetti shower. I don't know what you mean, Kess, but
moving on.
That's wrong.
That was a deleted scene.
So as always, I like to give you a choice. I like to give you a choice of these. So this one also caught my eye. This one was from Arbrax, slightly more unusual. Again, several elements in play, including the cannon. It is present. It is there up in the top right-hand corner. It may look like some sort of sex toy, but most of the gadgets in this era do. So you've got that in the top right. You've got the TARDIS floating around. You've got that weird delta wave thing. I didn't understand any of that either, but they didn't really explain. So if they don't care, why should I? And you've got the actual stadium there too, as well as the Doctor bobbing along there like the little floater that he is, sort of just bobbing in space. But I thought this was nicely put together by Alison, otherwise known as Arbrax, there over on X and Instagram, and captures some of that kind of the mystery, the isolation and the spectacle and the fear that the episode didn't have.
Yes.
That's the sound of space.
What can I possibly say?
Well, being sarcastic, everybody. Yeah. What's this? What is this? Says Richard Brooks.
That's what I was saying throughout the whole episode, Richard.
Yeah.
Richard says you can't see him. Oh, he's floating. I couldn't see him. Unusual angled view of Shooter Gatwa. Good grief.
It just goes to show how ridiculous that episode was.
But I actually like this one. I like Matthew's composed one there, but I slightly prefer this one. I think this would look good as if nothing else, as a lock screen on a smartphone. And Matthew Pounder says in space, no one can hear you yawn. Maybe you're right.
Very good.
Maybe you're right. So I don't know which one. Let us know which one you prefer. Thrusting in space, says Richard Brooks. I've seen that film. And what is the canon destroying? Asks Vanessa Law. Credibility, Vanessa. Credibility.
Yes.
Any ounce that we had left, Gary. Yes. So that's there's those, and there's also this one as well. Slightly sillier, but fitting for the occasion. I think this cartoon of the new box fresh incarnation of the Rani there as. Yes. So. As illustrated there by Gol Sebi on that was on Instagram and X. So again, I quite like this. I like the choice of colours and the fact that they've managed to fit the spikes there on the Archie Punjab incarnations.
The spikes are definitely the best bit about the outfit, aren't they? The spikes are good.
I think so.
Oh, they've forgotten about the nose ring.
Oh,
It's the other side of the nose, mate. I think.
Yeah, it should still be there though. I'm sorry, that's my perspective anyway.
I think it'd be in there.
I would have put it in there.
This was slightly unusual, and goes to show that any character in just 2 lines can make an impact, I suppose, with the creative fandom that is the Doctor Who fandom.
Well, that's
pretty good, but I'd lose the beige background.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you on that, Richard. It's a bit dull, the background. But this is the whole thing about Doctor Who fans, isn't it? We are able to find something out of just about everything. Something inspires somebody somewhere, and that's the joy of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And that's why it's great. People that are inspired by the show today, I'm still delighted for them, although it's not for me and I'm not watching it or enjoying it. I'm still delighted for anybody that is watching it and enjoying it. You know, good for you. Brilliant.
Vanessa says that she likes it because it pops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does pop. Good likeness as well. It has to be said. It's a good likeness for as a caricature. It's a good likeness.
That's why it stood out to me. It caught my eye. I thought this was really quite nicely done. I like the choice of colours and the style. It's slightly unusual, and the bracelet is in there, and some of the jewelry. So yeah, maybe there'll be more this time next week if this character hits, if it takes off, and people are inspired even more. We'll have to see.
Somebody wanted to draw Graham Norton. That's
sorry, mate. Sorry, mate, not this time. If you are a fan artist or you know a Doctor Who fan artist with some work that you think that we'd enjoy to fill up those big grey walls, then you know what to do. You can get in touch with us here at Type 40 Live because we're very, very greedy. We want as much of it as we possibly can. To stick up on the walls. Reach out to us through our social media with all of that. That's Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who, or you can join us in the Type 40 Facebook group as ever and showcase your own fan art or somebody else's. Yeah, put us in touch with them or them in touch with us. We don't really care how it works as long as we get to see more fabulous fan art. You can also get involved with Type 42 now through SpeakPipe. Leave us a message, a question, a prediction, any feedback whatsoever, over there on SpeakPipe, and you could be part of the podcast or the live stream. So much left to talk about. It's over in a week and a half. Season 2 of All New Doctor Who. I was only just getting used to the fact it was back on, but. Yes, it's working its way to a close. With 2 more episodes left to come, of course. That's Wish World and then the Reality War, and we'll be all over it like a rash with those instant reaction live streams, extra editions of the show every Saturday directly after the episode is aired. Obviously, they've only just announced when the final episode is going to be on and when's it going to be finished and all that kind of thing. We're going to work a few things out with there, iron a few issues out, obviously with that simultaneous drop. So the best way that you can keep an eye on what we're doing is to make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications. Then you won't miss us when we deliver our truths, our rants or raves, hot takes and pet peeves there with the new Who reactions on the night live. I tell you what, be careful what you wish for, Russell. This had better be bloody good, mate. Otherwise, we're going to come and give you a virtual dry slap. Guys, I was going to ask, how many hands up? Who's looking forward to the finale? Matt, you're in. You're going to carry on watching for the next couple of weeks, it seems.
Yeah, my hands are touching the floor, but I will probably be watching it just to finish it off.
Or it'll finish you off.
Yeah, it probably will. Especially that. Oh, God,
no. Gary, are you looking forward to the weekend, mate?
Oh, to this weekend? Oh, yeah. No, I'm looking forward to Saturday, as always. Our weekly therapy session.
You're not bailed yet, Gary. You're still not bailed.
It's a mental endurance test, Simon.
Like, can you explain this to me?
I applaud you.
It is getting very much like that, isn't it? Look, they look very concerned about what's kicking off. So maybe we should be as well. The TARDIS doors have exploded.
Yeah, explain that one away.
Vanessa Law's going to see the new Mission Impossible movie instead.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, God.
Sounds good. Can I come, Vanessa?
And Ezra Goldstein says, "Thank God it's over." Oh, you mean Doctor Who, not us? Okay. Yes, thank God it's over in a week and a half. Rose Kirby says, "Hey, Type 40 panel." And Simon, thank you for such a wonderful video. Hope to catch you on Saturday. And Tom Haynes says, "I'm looking forward to it.
Here.
It will be explosive and surprising." Well, we guarantee we'll bring our end. It's up to Russell T Davis, Shuti Gatwa, Radha Setu, and everybody else to bring us a top drawer episode of Doctor Who, hopefully. And we'll be right here as we're processing it, rambling on as ever directly after that BBC One broadcast and taking your comments, your rants and raves as well. All opinions as welcome as ever this coming Saturday on Type 40 Live.
And I know Simon isn't going to be watching it on TV because I know that Simon's going to be going to the movie theater screening of the finale.
Oh, you jest, sir.
You've rumbled him. That's it for another one. We'll see you back here in just 48 hours to find out why they look so concerned and what on earth is happening next. But we always have the time, if you have the space, here at Type 40 Live. We'll speak to you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.